Can I remind members to put their mobile phones on silent, please, before commencement? I'd like to welcome everyone in the public gallery to the meeting today. Can members of the public present please also ensure that their phones are on silent, and if they are filming or recording the meeting, they do so in a way that does not disrupt our council business. I'd also like to remind everyone present that this is a meeting of the council held in public, and whilst it is open to the public to attend, it is not a public meeting. Colleagues, due to the ongoing building works to County Hall, please note that copies of fire evacuation procedure plans are available in the council chamber and public gallery. I ask that you take time to consider these and note that there is no planned fire drill today. Should there be a fire alarm, please follow the instructions of staff and security. Our assembly point is at the cenotaph. Visitors have also been provided with visitors' badges with a summary of information on the back. Please can you hand badges back to the officers when you leave the building. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is to receive apologies for absence. In advance of the meeting, apologies have been received from councillors Adam Freer, Ian Fletcher, Ian Johnston and Chad Thomas. Councillor Keeley has also informed me that she may need to leave the meeting early. Are there any further apologies to be noted? Thank you. The next item is member declarations of interest. Will members declaring an interest please identify themselves and their interest clearly and complete the usual yellow form before the end of the meeting. Firstly, are there any disclosable pecuniary interests to be declared?
No, Chair. Sorry,
Sir.
Councillor Ayoub.
Councillor Ayoub. Right.
With Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ayoub wouldn't.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
Press the yellow one.
Councillor Ayoub would not need to leave the meeting because the meeting is not actually making any decisions about light waves, but we will note it as an other interest, Councillor Ayoub.
Are there any other interests to be declared?
No, Chair.
Thank you. There are no exempt items before us today, so we will move straight on to agenda item 4, which is to receive and confirm the minutes of the annual council meeting on the 20th of May. Are these minutes moved?
Move the minutes.
Are the minutes seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favour? That is carried. Agenda item 5 is to deal with such communications as I may decide to lay before the council. Colleagues, I wanted to start by acknowledging that most of us here today are new councillors, and that whilst we have attended induction, training sessions and met with officers over the last few weeks, it will take us a little time to be fully confident with the rules and etiquette of these meetings. I do not, however, want this to stop debate and discussions and would therefore ask that you should ask questions or make comments if you wish. It may be that this is not the appropriate place in the meeting to do so. You will be advised as we go along. As Chair, I must uphold the procedure rules that govern the meeting, decide points of order and preserve order in how the meeting is conducted. I will try to do this fairly and without fear or favour. I ask all members to show respect to each other. In particular, can we ensure that only one person is speaking at any one time and that councillors do not speak over each other or shout across the chamber? I have now nominated my charity for the mayoral year, which will be Stepping Stones Baby Bank, based in Ossett. I have also been busy since the annual meeting attending events. I attended the sounding of the retreat, 80th anniversary event at the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry being given the freedom of the city of Wakefield, held at Pontefract Castle. The West Yorkshire Police Mayoral Luncheon, where all the new West Yorkshire mayors met with Chief Constable Sir John Robbins. And the first citizenship ceremony, where 48 people were welcomed into our community. Agenda item number 6 is to consider the Leader's report. The Leader will present his report and has up to 10 minutes to do so. There are a further 20 minutes allocated to respond to any questions or brief comments relating to the report or any other matter relating to the Leader's role and responsibilities. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, it's been great over the last few weeks to be able to get our feet under the bonnet. To meet so many officers, partners and businesses who do so much to contribute to the success of our district. And to work with elected members across the chamber to understand your priorities and start our discussion about how we can deliver for residents who have sent us here. There is actually an awful lot to unite us. I'm hoping that debate in this chamber can now strike a new and respectful chord going forward. One that reflects the fact that we might have political differences, but that we're all here for the right reasons. To serve our local communities and to make life better for our residents. I'd also like to welcome our 56 Reform Councillors. Can I also like to wish the England football team the very best of luck in the World Cup tonight against Croatia and moving forward in the group. We will be showing the matches at X and hopefully for all month. What do residents want? They want the basics done right and they want an end to being overlooked and taken for granted. Our new administration has hit the ground running to set the direction that we intend to take. Members will have already seen some of the early decisions we've taken to invest in important priorities, reducing spending on things that the Council could simply not afford, and to bring common sense back to the local decision making. Decisions like saving £1.3 million from adjusting a reckless and untargeted school uniform giveaway, which was nothing short of an election bribe. And by cutting the cost of politics by £50,000. Actually £51,000 to be precise, most of which has been achieved by not paying allowances to Deputy Cabinet Ministers. We're doing things more professionally and focusing on things that make the lives of our residents simpler and easier. Part of that professionalism is setting out a clear, deliverable, long-term plan that puts local people first, rather than focusing on the pointless political squabbling of the past. The over 52 years of hurt by the Labour Party has come to an end, and we're going to bring a new and positive vision and future to the district. Today I can provide an update on the priorities that our new Reform UK administration will bring. There are 10 key things residents have sent us here to deliver on. Each priority has equal billing and something that has been raised on the doorsteps. Firstly, we're going to be relentless in tackling waste and improving efficiency across the council. We're launching a Leaders Budget Efficiency Programme to deliver a root and branch review of all council expenditure. We're going to unashamedly focus our spending on the priorities of residents. Be clear about what it is and what isn't our core business. We're going to be transparent. A key first part of this, we're reviewing the council's debt level and making sure we collect the money we are owed. Secondly, we're going to improve the maintenance of our road network. Everyone who uses our roads is going to see fewer potholes, better road markings and a general improvement in our highway infrastructure. Residents will be able to see and feel a difference from our plans to invest in our roads. As part of our stronger approach on value for money, we've already identified some overloads in the Council's planning and highways department that were inherited by the previous administration. Thirdly, we're going to improve the management of our city and town centres. Getting this right is at the heart of how we can build a sense of positivity and momentum across our district. We want to make all of our urban centres welcoming, clean and a safe place to live. That and visit. That will encourage more footfall, boost local spending and help our local economy to grow and create more opportunities for local people. That feeds into our work, which is our fourth priority, to launch a new economic growth plan for our district. One of my first engagements as leader of council was to attend the UK Real Estate Investment and Infrastructure Forum in Leeds. This was quickly followed by a meeting of our new Wakefield Small Business Forum last week. These events are just the start of a council having a much clearer approach to capitalising on our huge potential as a major growth hub for the north of England. To be leading a place where we engage and support our business community and to showcase our strengths to create more opportunities for all our people. For too long, too many of our young people have been left behind. Nationally, we have 1 million 16 to 24-year-olds not in employment, education or training. The projected cost of this to our economy is 125 billion if it continues. So our fifth priority is going to be developing a new approach to help young people in Wakefield. With our partners, employees, schools, colleges and young people, we're going to significantly reduce the number of people affected. Young people in Wakefield should and will have a brighter future with more prospects under a reformed UK Council. Another key part of our building pride in our community is how we maintain our neighbourhoods. Our new administration's sixth priority is going to be a strong focus on environmental maintenance. Every part of our district should be a great place to live. Seventh, we will be rolling out a new model of integrated neighbourhood management, the new approach to put communities in the heart of how we deliver public service in their local areas. This will involve people having more to say about priorities and being involved in the decision making. That's something we've heard time and time again in this hall and never happened. And it's what we hear on the doorstep week in, week out. Consultation, engagement and involvement will also make a really important contribution to our eighth priority. We're going to carry out an in-depth review of the Cathedral Quarter Master Plan for the city centre and the plans for Castleford Town Centre regeneration that we have waited for so long. Anything we do needs to bring the people and businesses affected along with us, and it can't be rushed. That's something we are committed to. At an annual council on 20th May, I mentioned our ninth priority to undeclare our climate emergency and refocus our efforts on energy efficiency and cost of living interventions that will help our residents in a much more practical way. Members will note that a motion to do that will be debated later on this agenda. In advance of that, it's really important to say that this isn't about denying scientific evidence. It's about local government focusing on the things local governments meaningfully can do. Not spending our time virtual signalling. Finally, to end on a practical note, something we can really influence. We're going to achieve and accelerate the transformation of adult social care to improve the care for older and vulnerable adults. This is by far the Council's biggest area of spend. We're an ageing population and so significant demand pressures. There are a lot of changes taking place in the wider healthcare sector, but we need to align with. And the service is on an improvement journey starting from a poor place. All of this means it's an area we can make a significant positive impact on. I'm sure in the coming months we'll discuss these issues and more. A more detailed report in these areas will also be going to Cabinet in the meeting in July. But I want members to have a broader update on the Cabinet's area of focus and the impact you can expect to see when we drive forward these changes. Summer events. There's a lot going on across the district for residents to get involved with. Autumn Heroes of a Castleford Roman Festival, which I know a lot of elected members have attended, with some fantastic events coming up. Our renowned Armed Forces Day is an event. It goes from strength to strength every year. This year it's taking place at Pontefract Park on Saturday the 4th of July. And it's an important part of our annual calendar to mark the huge contribution serving and veteran members of the armed forces and wider armed forces make to our communities. On Saturday 12th of July, it's Pontefract Licorice Festival, which marks the contribution the famous sweet has made to the life of our district. Visitors will be able to enjoy the licorice parade, speciality market, food and drink trail and much more. There's an impressive programme of exhibitions, gigs and events to Wakefield Exchange in our city centre, which I encourage everyone to check out and watch this space for more. As I said earlier, Mr Mayor, members will have seen that the 2026 World Cup is now in full swing. England start their campaign tonight against Croatia in Dallas at 9 p.m. Again, it is at Wakefield X tonight, and I hope to see you all there. I know we have a die-hard audience for all our full council meetings, but I suspect that event might be an even bigger draw for our residents. So let's try and complete our business in good time so we can cheer on England this evening. And hopefully I'm standing here at our next meeting in July when we're talking about the 60 years of hurt is over, as well as the 52 years of hurt from Labour. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions on the Leader's report? Councillor Ayoub.
I think, am I okay to speak? Yeah? Thank you, Chair. I think it's the start of gesture politics, and the things that you mentioned about events that are going to be coming up, like the Armed Forces Day, Licorice Festival, are all legacy projects that the Labour Council had actually planned and was looking forward to deliver. I also think that there's no substance to anything that you've said today. I hope in the coming months that we see more evidence of that. And what I didn't understand is that you talk about Reform UK. We want to hear what Wakefield Reform are going to be doing, not what Reform UK are proposing, or if that's the name that you're giving it. And that's my questions.
I think, yet again, it's denial by Labour. Where are these Labour councillors? It was spoken to on the doorsteps and the votes went through, which unfortunately some people in here still do not know what democracy is. Okay? We now have one Labour councillor, 56 Reform councillors. So I think the general public are in support of us. So in regard to legacy projects, yes, things have already been booked. And I did say, watch this space. Things will be changing rapidly for the better. 52 years of hurt has ended.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Having spoke to a few of the officers over the last 2-3 weeks, I'm going to commend the new administration, because all I've had is positivity, absolute positivity. So I'll congratulate you on that. A couple of things that I've done. I attended a meeting with my 2 ward colleagues, with the officers. What I was appalled by was the fact is that they don't attend PAC meetings. And the reason they don't attend PAC meetings is because they weren't allowed to attend because it took the credit off the councillors. Let's not be unaware of exactly what we are. We're the intermediaries between the members of the public and the officers. They're the ones that do the work. So let's not take any credit off them. So as far as I'm concerned, every officer that works for this council can come to every PAC meeting in my ward, no problem at all. And I want them to take the credit for it. And secondly, I forgot what I was going to say then, I lost my train of speech. Yeah, just a question for the leader. The LGA Model Code of Conduct states, as a council you can express, challenge, criticise and disagree with views ideas and opinions and policies in a robust but civil manner. It would be absurd were this not to include criticism of the personal qualities or otherwise of those purporting a fitness to hold office. Do you agree?
Firstly, I will mention officers. In my ward, Stanley and Outwood, I've told my officers they can turn up to any meeting, and I think it's a great idea because I think we can get things a lot quicker, a lot faster to residents and get communications. I'm all for speeding things up. Regarding VLGA and employment, I think you're obviously talking about sorting where we're going to bring people back to work. Is that what we're wanting to talk about? Oh.
That's one of the issues that council officers have been saying to me. The fact is that they're worried. They've got a great family-work balance. They want to hear it from you that they're not going to be forced back to work. As far as I'm concerned, managers should be allowed to manage.
The first thing I will say, and I think I've said this to everybody, is I'm not here to micromanage because we should all be very good at our jobs. We have already begun looking at this, and we have already started as we mean to carry on. So, generally, we have a minimum 3 days a week at work in the office now, okay? And we have a third of staff in on Friday. That has happened. So we have minimum 3 days a week in the office, a third of the staff in on a Friday, and there's an analysis ongoing, and we are monitoring this. So we find that emails are a lot less on a Friday morning than, say, a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So we have to look at this, and it's got to be that the council comes first, as well as a life balance. We get that, but I think minimum 3 days a week in the office, I think that's a fair compromise.
Councillor Speak.
Hi. It sounds good. You know, if you bring that all to this chamber and to this district, then we're in for a good year. I was hoping, on the doors a lot was said about bringing services, being more involved in every single ward. A lot of this is still, it feels still like Labour did it, where it's town centres. Can you explain a little bit more? So I'm going to drive for this year because obviously as an urban ward that's been forgotten, this is what we need. So just a little bit more context in how this year is going to go and bring more, as in events, in support, community support, all that side of it that doesn't reach each ward. They have to go into a city centre. I'm hoping that this is going to bring it right across the district.
I do thank you for that question. I'm quite happy to meet you in the next couple of weeks and we can discuss it. I know various places like Nottingham, that has for a long time, South Hemsall, Hemsworth, for a long time been left behind, should we say. And I think we need to really push forward and make sure that these people are heard and money's put into those areas. So you have my word on that. That will happen. I don't want to tread on portfolios holders as we're talking, but I'll give you an example. Obviously, we've got potholes and roads, which I just think have an absolute disaster around here. And it's not for a year. It's for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. These roads have just been left. I mean, where's the white paint? Where's the yellow paint? Sometimes putting that down makes the road look a lot better. I've learnt a few things in the last few weeks. 2 inches is, guess what, a pothole. But some of these roads are in absolute, like farm tracks. So, for instance, we will get the fine for pot of money, but we've got 21 wards. We will divide it fairly and we'll make sure that we look at 2 or 3 roads or more if we can in each area to make sure people see in every area improvements. I could go on, I could talk about the waste, I could talk about grass cutting. That used to be get cut 17 times. All the cuts, it went down to 8, literally, went down to 8 cuts. We're lucky if some areas now see 5 cuts. May this year, we've seen a lot of rain, a lot of sun. We can all look around, we've got weeds. I went out on Monday morning with the service directors trying to find out why we're not cutting the grass as much as we should be doing. It's an ongoing issue, and I am going to blame Labour. I am. And I'm certainly allowed to, because we've been here 4 weeks, but you will see a massive improvement. But we had a Labour administration who might sit up there in denial, right? It's not just national issues, it's local issues. They were spending money for fun, but not on the priorities we should have been doing. And I give you my word, we will spend the money where it should be, and we're not going to lie. Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think all councillors here have been elected in their own right, and anybody disputing that is not following the norms of democracy. So I believe that everybody here, whether we like the election result or not, has been elected in their own right, and they should be given the opportunity to serve their people of their area in the way that they've been elected to do. That includes everybody here and across the chamber. And I think the point that you've got made about Labour, I don't agree with it, but I do believe that the Labour Party in Wakefield, not all of them, there's quite a lot of good Labour councillors not here today because of their party and their governance of Wakefield and national issues which have caused the demise of the Labour Party in Wakefield. But that demise and that excuse, as Councillor Johnson will know, is not an indefinite. He knows we do it when the new leadership team comes in, they've got about 5 or 6 months to blame the other one, and then they've got about another year where they take responsibility for those actions. So those words today, whether they're gesture politics or empty words, have to be proven over time, and we have to give that time to the people here to make sure that they're not empty words. So at this moment in time, we have to just accept it at face value that they're genuine commitments. But when they do, and if they do fall apart, it's the role of the opposition and also councillors within Reform to challenge those perceptions within their own, instead of sitting there like lemmings and voting like the previous Labour administration did. It's important that you challenge when you feel things are going wrong, because when you don't, you end up in a position where people eventually vote you back out. And that's what's the important thing here. But like we said, I do believe there is some gesture politics going on. You know, I want you to look up that definition. Well done, you know, you've done it, but you've said the same thing as them. But I do believe that you should be given an opportunity to show the people of Wakefield that the past, whether it's 56 or 52, we don't want to add another year of hate or whatever you wanted to call it, continuing on because of the new administration.
I welcome your comments, and some of it I do agree. Look, we did lose some good colleagues. But make no mistake, this wasn't just because of national issues. This was from years and years and years of colleagues trying their best for their wards and getting very little back. But at certain areas were getting money put in. So I do get that, and I do thank every councillor that lost his seat for the effort they put into Wakefield. But some of them are in denial. You did not just lose for national issues. You lost from poor decision-making, bad spending and not listening to residents. And I do know what gesture politics is. And yes, we've been in 5 or 6 weeks. We've got under the bonnet. We are moving at a fast pace, faster than probably some officers want, but we are trying our best to do as quickly as we can, but do it as thoroughly as we can. Answers will come out, but yes, we will be judged 6, 12 months and then see where we are. Thank you.
Agenda item 7 is to consider Cabinet member reports. Cabinet members have up to 5 minutes to present their report, and there are a further 15 minutes allocated to enable each Cabinet member to respond to any questions or brief comments on matters within their portfolio area. Members will need to raise the questions in the correct portfolio. The Chief Legal Officer will confirm whether the questions are to the correct portfolio. Please be aware that if you are asking a question and it sits with a portfolio holder who has already reported, we won't be able to reopen the section to allow further questions. But I am sure that portfolio holders will respond to those questions by email. I would also advise councillors that the responses to questions may be verbal or may be sent to all councillors in writing after the meeting. The first report is from the portfolio holder for resources and property. Councillor Thomas, would you please introduce your report to council?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. As Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Resources and Property, I'm very pleased to represent the residents of the district on Wakefield Council's new leadership team. So in presenting this report, I just want to highlight a couple of pieces that I've been working on over the past 5 or 6 weeks. So I've been talking to the Service Director for Property and found out that our estate is significant. We've got over 1,600 assets ranging from civic buildings, modern offices and commercial properties, castles, museums, leisure centres and libraries. So what I'll be doing over the next month or so is getting under the skin of that and looking at that list and just seeing how do we use those properties, how could we better use those properties, and are the ones that we no longer need, are the ones that are costing us money to maintain, that we could look to move on. Like the rest of the Cabinet, I'm working really hard to meet teams teams involved in delivering services across the portfolio. I attended a tribute to the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry at Pontefract Castle with yourself. It was a fabulous event, and I was honoured to be invited there. So we've been clear from the start that we're not going to spend money on things that the council can't afford. So the Leader and I have kick-started a new budget efficiency process as we get a head start on budget setting for 26-27. And I'm also looking forward to working with Councillor Pinder to accelerate strategic regeneration in Castleford. As a resident of Castleford, I was keen to get involved in that, with the resources and property portfolio being instrumental in supporting Cabinet to deliver major improvements to our town centre. So with that, I present the report.
Are there any questions or brief comments on the report?
Councillor Ahmed.
Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you to Councillor Thomas for that report, and we look forward to the council tax reducing for the residents of Wakefield. But in terms of agenda page 7, Light Waves update, I think the time, so we're taking the opportunity to get a clear understanding of the transaction. There was an election commitment made from your party and the members there that certain actions would take place. I think the time for a clear understanding would have been before the election, before making that commitment. So are you going to fulfil your election commitment on what was said to the people of Wakefield? Because your councillor Harvey made sure she was speaking on your behalf, so she should have been stopped if she wasn't. But so, you know what I mean, there's election leaflets gone out with that information on. You know everyone's got a copy of them, screenshotted and shared everywhere. That's the world we live in. So the commitment was made in the elections. Are you going to fulfil that commitment, or are you renegading on that and you were wrong when the election was taking place?
So from our perspective, one candidate doesn't make a policy for the whole party. What we have committed to is looking at the process, just seeing, is it the right move, is it the right contract, is it the right deal for the council, for the charity, and also for the people of Wakefield. So yes, we are committed to reviewing that process, and if it does happen to be the right process, if it will negate the money that the council are spending on improvements and regenerating the place, and the best thing would be to do a community asset transfer, then that is what we'll do. But we will take in independent advice, but our commitment is to review the process. We only had certain information available before. Now with the administration, we've got access to the full deal. So we will be reviewing that and have started already.
Councillor Dodd.
Thank you for that. And sticking with the question of light waves, obviously understand what you're saying about trying to get a clear understanding of the transaction and the work that you're doing to try and fully understand what has happened, or didn't stop members of your party talking about what they assumed had happened without that knowledge. Can Councillor Thomas confirm whether or not in this investigation you have actually engaged with the trustees and taken their view and got their understanding of what's an example of a political party saying one thing in order to get elected and then finding that when you're in office it's a whole lot more complicated and performance?
Yes, so I can confirm that we haven't yet spoken with the Trust, but we absolutely will be doing that as part of these ongoing review. I can't give you an indicative timescale yet, but as soon as we start that process, I should be able to get a timescale from that, and I will email you with that response. And there was the... Yep, and thirdly, as I said earlier, one candidate's interpretation of what has happened, what the deal may or may not have been, certainly wasn't reflective of the whole party and all of the candidates.
Farmer and then Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, it's great there's regeneration going in the Casford area, the Nottingley. Please don't forget our side of the city where we've been let down for so many years by this incompetent Labour Party. So can you make sure that some of that regeneration is coming over to our side of the city, please? Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's maybe an older version of the title, but Wakefield and the 5 towns does include the whole of Wakefield district. And in fact, there's 10 towns. So we will be making sure that Wakefield and all of the towns, the surrounding villages, particularly like Nottingley, as an example, that's within my constituency. My wife's from Nottingley, so she'll never forgive me if we continue to, as it's locally called, call it forgottingly. Yeah. So absolutely, we are committed to not just having city centre development regeneration, making sure that all 21 wards in Wakefield and the 5 towns / 10 towns get the equal amount of funding regeneration.
Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm replying to the opposition's question about Lightwave based on...
I think I'm ahead of you, Councillor Ahmed, because I was about to explain. Councillor Ahmed, it's raised a point of order. Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. That was the point that I was just about to mention to you. Councillor Ahmed is correct. This section of the agenda is for questions and comments to Councillor Thomas. There is no right of reply in this section, Councillor Harvey. I'm sorry.
Councillor Harvey, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I have indeed, Mr Mayor. So I need to make it clear to the whole of Wakefield people, I was that councillor scrutinised this Lightwave decision. And at the time, my point I have raised with the scrutiny meeting as well. And one of the Labour councillors actually agreed with what the decision I actually made, which is to scrutinise this decision. So first and foremost...
So ask him what a point of order is.
What is your point of order? No.
It's the same old this is. We've had this for 8 years. Councillor Harvey, Councillor Jenkins, whatever you want to call her, keeps on going on about things that aren't related to what we're actually talking about. And she should be addressing the comments to the portfolio holders. So I've had 8 years of this, and it goes on and on and on. And you sent an email out telling all of us in this council chamber not to do the councillor is just carrying on with it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. That point of order is the same as the one previously raised, and it is correct. Councillor Harvey, if you have a comment or a question to Councillor Thomas, you need to phrase it that way. What you're doing at the moment is directing your comments across the chamber to other people who've spoken. I think, Mr Mayor, if we get to the same point again, then we would have to say we'd move on.
So I just want to make sure that to follow up Councillor Thomas' comment, this is not about one councillor's decision, and I understand that there's no decision has been made by this group. But however, at the time when this lightweight was rushed off just after the election was called, and I don't feel it's the same safe decision that this council should be, the previous council should be making. So that is the reason why, based on the involvement of Councillor Ayub with this charity, based on the maintenance
Point of order.
covenant.
No.
It's time to move on.
Just move on. Same point.
Right.
Just say
That's-
moving on.
That's the same point, and I think we should move on.
Any more questions to Councillor Thomas?
Any more questions, Councillor Thomas?
No, his is fine. Yours will work. Councillor Farmer, the Mayor has decided to move on, so he's taking any additional comments from any other councillors.
No further comments? Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Next is the portfolio holder for adults and health. Councillor Hyatt, would you please introduce your report to the Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to present my first report to the Council as a Cabinet Member for Adults and Health. My focus is on ensuring that residents can live safely, healthy, and independent lives. My priorities are centered on prevention, early intervention, and reducing health inequalities in our district, and to ensure our services remain responsive, sustainable, and focused on supporting those who are most vulnerable. I would like to highlight two key developments within the portfolio during my short term in the office. Firstly, Wakefield Council has appointed KREM as our new technology-enabled care provider, with the service due to go live on 1st of August. This new contract will provide telecare and emergency response support to help residents remain safe and independent in their own homes. Importantly, there will be no interruption to services for existing users, while the new arrangements will allow us to modernize and strengthen support for residents in the future. Secondly, as an update to share that new analysis or a local research has shown that smoking costs Wakefield an estimated of £308 million every year. And it has significant impact on health, social care, and wider public services. These findings reinforce the importance of continued investment in smoking cessation and prevention programs locally in our district. We will be working closely with Yorkshire Smoking Cessation Clinic and Public Health to help people quit smoking so that we can improve health outcomes and ease pressure on our local services. Finally, I look forward to working with colleagues, partners, and communities across the district as we continue to improve outcomes for residents and deliver high-quality adult care and health services. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions or brief comments on the report?
Councillor Speak.
Can you just read that out before you do?
Can I just say, I would like to remind councillors to use the microphones so that the sound is heard on the live stream. Thank you.
Councillor Speak. So it's Councillor Speak and then Councillor Farmer.
Councillor Speak.
Hi. Your report highlights that smoking costs the district an estimated 308 million a year. Can you confirm what the new administration's commitment is to funding stopping smoking services going forward, and whether any reductions to public health budgets are planned as part of the budget efficiency process?
Yes. So far, what have been presented, there is no plan to cut any budget in the public health services. And we will continue to work with our public health services. And there are some services which are under the wider NHS, like our local integrated care board, about helping people quit smoking. So we will continue to work with them. But there's no planned cuts in this sector at the moment I'm aware of. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulations on your post, Dr Ansar. We've finally got somebody in health that knows what they're talking about.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farmer.
Councillor Dodd.
Sticking with the theme of knowing what you're talking about, I note that your report describes how in these early weeks in the role you're focusing on building relationships and understanding, breadth of understanding about your portfolio and the health provision locally. But I also note that you bring over 20 years of experience in both primary and secondary health care. I'm wondering what your initial impressions are and what impressions you brought into the role as regards the provision for health needs for older people, for disabled people in the district, and about the council's work with local healthcare providers and their partners.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I think it will take me a long time to answer if you want me to answer every point that you raised, by the way. But my initial impression is that, number one, as a government's plan as well, and our local ICB is working in transferring more care to the communities so that we can have some centers where people can be treated in the community rather than sending to hospital. So we will be working closely with our ICB and Mid Yorkshire Trust to have more services in the community. You might have seen is called Wakefield Community Diagnostic Centre, which is not far from where we are, and where people can have blood tests done locally and many other like scans even for which they needed to travel to Middenfields before hospital. In terms of the long term, I think NHS itself and overall health is a very complex organization. It is not the council that runs the other Mid Yorkshire or primary care services. It is the central NHS England that itself is a body under the Department of Health and Social Care that funds the NHS part of primary care and secondary care. And then social care also sits slightly separately. So it would be very difficult for me to explain you in like few words that how it's going to change. But certainly we will be working with our stakeholders, which is Mid Yorkshire Trust and Wakefield ICB, to make sure that whatever resources we have, we utilize them in order to provide the best possible care to our residents.
Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you for that report, Councillor Hayat. I just wanted to ask a question in relation to the air quality and rise of respiratory illnesses in the Wakefield district and other areas. Could as a healthcare professional, and I know he is one, he's my GP, so basically, I just want to know, is there an increase of health-related illnesses of lung capacity, asthma, COPD, and other respiratory illnesses, and what are the reasons behind that? I was just getting scared that the Green Party candidate was going to ask you about legalising drugs and stuff like that, like heroin. So I'm just a bit scared there. So I just want to answer.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. I'm not aware of the recent data, but I can tell you from my general medical knowledge that respiratory illnesses have been significantly more prevalent in West Yorkshire overall and Wakefield. And that was partly due to our history of mining industry, and smoking, of course, was more prevalent in previous communities. But generally speaking, smoking is also in decline in the UK, and hence there are no more mines, so that's also one reduced risk factor for respiratory illnesses. So overall, the prevalence is going down.
Are there any more questions? Thank you, Councillor Hyatt. We now move, next is the portfolio holder for children and young people. Councillor Caton, would you please introduce your report to the Council?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm Matthew Caton. I'm the portfolio holder for children and young people. A bit about myself. I grew up in an educational background. My mother was a teacher and a learning mentor for 20 years. I myself was a volunteer in primary schools for 10 of those. My wife, she is an SEN practitioner and a nursery practitioner as well. So I have a lived experience of that. Comparative to some of the experience we have in this brilliant cabinet, mine could be argued is a little bit less, but I like to think that the skills I bring from my private sector, I'm a transport manager by trade and an Air Force veteran, can help and assist in how we can deliver projects and how we can continue on the outstanding course that this department goes on. When I inherited this, and it was in great honour to be first elected to be ward councillor and then the portfolio holder for children and young people to be selected for that, we have in Wakefield a service that I have described to me as second to none. This is a service that I am immensely proud of. Now, there are always room for improvements, but we are a national leader in many regards. The Department for Education comes to this service for advice and for rolling out new programmes. We will continue on that course. My position is to deliver the best outcome for the children of this district. That is not, however, only my job. That is the job of every councillor here, every councillor there, every officer. It is the responsibility to deliver the best outcome for children, and I am keen to work on that, as we all should be. My priority at this very moment is to get around, is to see the troops on the ground and the brilliant work that they are doing. Already I visited the hut in Airedale, Kendall Drive in Airedale also, been down to the Queen's House in Wakefield, spoke to the foster team there, spoke to the care leavers team in Stanley Library. The staff on the ground see this as a revolutionary approach. Personally, I find it quite surprising that it is so. I would have thought that whoever overviews it should have known what was happening on the ground. It is my policy going forward that I communicate with, that I take feedback from, and that I liaise with everybody that is involved in the service. That is my policy and my approach. Now, one of the first things we inherited in this portfolio, and indeed in this administration, was, of course, and I will mention it, I appreciate the media traffic it's received, was the school uniforms. Now, let me second the words of my colleagues. This was a naked voter bribe. This was a naked attempt by an administration in its desperate last throes to buy votes. This administration has found a pragmatic and common sense middle ground because we were elected on a mandate of common sense, overwhelmingly so, as you can see. Going forward, the parents and the children in most need of these vouchers, and that's what they are. This is not a supplement of uniform or delivery of such. This is support, will receive it. Those are children on free school meals. Those are children and parents who are working and who are struggling. This will be automatic to free school meals and going forward from there on a case-by-case basis, delivered by the schools. These are the experts on the ground who are in best place to deliver it, not a faceless bureaucracy in Wakefield. As I say, going forward, my intention as portfolio holder is to continue the brilliant work of the officers and staff of the service to ensure the best outcomes for the district. That is all our jobs as councillors, not just mine. And my approach is to have consensus, is to take feedback, is to work with every member in this chamber and every community group and every charity and etc. that reaches out to me. My goal is the best outcome of the children of Wakefield. I take that immense burden and responsibility with the greatest weight, for that's what it deserves. And I'm keen to see the brilliant work that's been carried out continued on with and grown upon. Thank you.
Are there any questions or brief comments on the report?
Councillor Dodd, Councillor Marmot.
Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Councillor Caton, for that report and particularly for the recognition of the excellent work by officers in this area of our provision. Can I ask where and when we can see the impact assessment that it is a legal obligation to make prior to the decision to change the decision about allocation of funds for the school uniform grants? I'm assuming that that was all undertaken and that a full analysis of the impact on families was done. I think that needs to be shared with members of this chamber, but also with members of the public, so that that is fully transparent and people can see that. But I'm also picking up on the comment that you made the report that you gave about the disbanding of the Corporate Parenting Committee. It was stated by the administration that this decision was made following an officer recommendation. Can all members please be provided with copies of the correspondence and the details of when and how this officer recommendation was made to Cabinet?
Well, Councillor Dodd, I'm very happy to provide as requested. I believe in open, transparent government, and I'm quite happy to say, in my portfolio capacity, as I've reiterated in my speech multiple times, I am quite keen to see cooperation. I do not believe, though I appreciate in the nature of things that politics will come into this portfolio, we have to be open, transparent and cooperative. The reports that you request, I will see to are provided, and I am happy to take feedback, and I am very happy again to be transparent and open. We have to deliver the best outcome for the children of the district, and part of that is being open, honest, and showing the work we are doing. So yes, if you provide me a list of the reports afterwards, I can happily get those procured for you.
Councillor Ahmed.
Councillor Speak.
Let's take that consensus and feedback to a step further. So, what modelling was done on the financial costings of the uniform impact? So, how's the modelling being done? And I wanted the sharing of that modelling. So, which actuarial model of modelling was done to say that the cost would be that much? Because as he knows, you've raised it now. It was probably going to be raised later on. The actual uniform. The free school meals, as you should know, is not a single determiner in schools, and actually most schools don't even use it as a factor anymore. It's the pupil premium one that they use. The disadvantage model, which shows there, would actually mean that a lot of the students would miss out on this, and it would rely on schools to administer the process, which most schools would have different. Who's going to step forward and say that I am now struggling financially and I want to go through a process of applying for £30, which will probably cover the cost of a blazer at most. If you look at the uniform costs of today, that would cover the cost of a blazer. And if we're going to go on an experience, I absolutely wipe the floor with you on this one, you know what I mean? Because I've actually done this. All schools in Wakefield now and across the district in all areas, when they give stuff to students, for example, that are disadvantaged and none, they don't identify them and stand them up in school and go, stand over there, you're poor, we're going to give you a free revision guide. It's actually universal. So what they'll do is they'll give it to their entire year 11 or year 10. Councillor Johnson knows because that's what I used to do. He knows that's wrong. The copy of the modelling, which actually you just said there, the modelling of that is actually wrong because I've got someone to model it. And actually, if every single person who said or claimed that they were at a loss or couldn't afford it, it'd actually end up costing exactly the same as it probably would have done. So if every single person, parent or pupil or whatever, started applying for the process, it would fall apart. So what you've done is created a two-tier uniform policy, really, because I believe that it was an election gimmick. I'll say that. So I have to, you said consensus and open criticism, so I'm openly criticising it here. So you have to be open to that. I think support should be provided for people. And then that goes into the second question, which you should know the answer for because you've got this. You mentioned pupil outcomes which ethnic group or class group in Wakefield today on the SATs and the year GCSE scores, the two ethnic groups, and which class group is currently the most disadvantaged in Wakefield, and how are you, as a portfolio holder, or anyone in this council chamber, going to make a tiny bit of difference on that? That's the two questions. You should know the answer to that. It's not about how, you should know which ethnic group it is.
Oh, it's an absolutely fair assessment. Thank you, Councillor. I do really appreciate you, your contribution. Like I say, I'm really keen to listen to feedback, and I appreciate a man of your experience in teaching. I take that on board, and I am very keen to have open and frank discussions. With regards to your comment about which group is most disadvantaged, I certainly know nationally, and I'm very happy to say that in Wakefield I will have this confirmed as well, in comparison, is the white working class. And in boys, we know educational outcomes are lower than girls, and it is the white working class that are effectively always at the bottom. There are various reasons for that. That's, some of those are social, some of those are economic. But in Wakefield, how we are going to work on that is, has been touched on. We are looking and going forward at introducing schemes to give vocational skills and practical skills to those who do not fit into a traditional educational pathway. That will be something we're working on, and we'll take great pride in. It is a priority of this administration. With regards to the modelling for the change to the policy, I'm happy to provide that as well, Councillor. I'm happy to have that discussion with you. As I reiterate once again, a man of your experience, I think we ought to very much listen to and take feedback from, and I do appreciate it.
Councillor Speak.
I'll leave the school grant until the motion. There's no point in addressing it twice. In your report, it says the corporate parenting board has moved out of public session to better amplify children's voices. Can you explain what democratic accountability mechanism now exists for members of the public and opposition councillors to scrutinise decisions made in relation to children in care, given that those meetings will no longer be publicly held?
Well, certainly, Councillor. The decision to move the corporate parenting from a committee to a board level, board panel, it is known by various things across various local authorities, is the standard approach. It was the exception to have it at committee level. It was following the recommendations following the horrific assessments in 2018. I'm very glad to see that the work has been done. Yet again, I cannot take credit, nor would I ever, for the work of the officers of the service. They do a fantastic job. With regards to it being held behind, in comparison to the previous closed doors, that is to enable us to discuss actually the most complex of cases, the cases that should never end up in the press, where children do not feel comfortable, where parents, adults and those involved do not feel comfortable stating these things in public. The new format of that board will actually encourage a hell of a lot more nitty-gritty work where we can look at the problems and take a deep dive on them. With regards to the accountability and the reporting, as you know, that will still, the papers that are public will still be made public, and the papers that are available to councillors will still be made as such. What we are keen to see is the development of this board so that it can do the job more effectively. And yes, that is scrutiny, but it is also giving a voice to the children, parents, foster carers of this district who previously did not feel comfortable to do so in public. As I say, and I will say again, this is the standard format nationwide in local authorities. We were the exception, and I will happily say, as I've said to members of the public, should in the disastrous circumstances the service return to the parlour state it was in 2018, we will of course review it. As I have said, my job is to achieve the best outcome for the children of Wakefield, and if putting this back to a committee level or putting this into another form is what is required, then that will be carried out. That is my job.
Councillor Ryle.
Well, firstly, thank you for your report, and it's good to see that you're actually been visiting some of the centres. I'm going to leave my school uniform sort of question to the motion that's been proposed. I also think it's really important that you see the children and young people sector, not just from statutory services, but also from the voluntary and community sector, and that you make the same effort to visit some of the projects within communities and in the anchors and hubs as well.
Well, I'm glad to see that already we're at political consensus, Councillor. I've already visited, for example, the Red Roof in Kinsley. I'm planning to visit the Wakefield Hub. I've got an email from them that I need to go back to alongside several other councillors, including Councillor Webster. I completely agree. And as part of this administration, we are reaching out to community groups, to charities, to community forums. This morning, in fact, I've had a member of the Foster Caring Working Party in my office because that's my approach. I understand entirely that education is not simply the job of the state, it is the job, as they say, of a village to raise a child. In this instance, it's the job of a district. So yeah, I absolutely extend, it's my approach to things. I extend openly an invite to any community groups, charities, working groups, please come and have a discussion with me. As I've said now multiple times, I am open to feedback. This is not a position that should, in my opinion, be too political. It should be to deliver the best outcome, and that is getting consensus from across not only this chamber, but from across this district.
Are there any more questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Kate. We shall now move to the portfolio holder for culture and sport. Councillor Bosch, would you please introduce your report to the Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Councillor Lucas Borch. I'm Cabinet Member for Sport and Culture. My report can be found on agenda pages 15 to 17. Since taking on this role, I've been working closely with officers to review current projects and develop future plans that will benefit residents across the Wakefield district. Over the past few weeks, I've attended a number of events, including the Roman Festival in Castleford and the launch of Beat the Street Normanton last week, which we already reached 4,500 residents playing active in the game. It has been great to see so many families, kids, in all activities we do at the moment. I have also been meeting local sports clubs, community groups and cultural organizations to better understand the opportunities and challenges we have and they face. This conversation will help shape our future priorities and investment decisions. Looking ahead, we have a number of exciting events planned, including the Live England World Cup, like Leader mentioned tonight. Everyone's welcome to WX Wakefield. We also have big Wakefield The Licorice Festival in Pontefract. These events not only provide great experience for residents, but also help support our towns and city centres. I am committed to increasing opportunities for people of all ages to take part in sport, physical activities and cultural experiences, while ensuring our facilities and programs continue to deliver value for residents. I would like to thank officers, volunteers, club communities, organizations and partners for their hard work and dedication. I'm happy to take questions wherever I can answer them now or I can send responding emails. Thank you.
Are there any questions or brief comments? Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Councillor Borch, and thanks for your admission that you've got a lot to learn in this portfolio and for the alacrity with which you're pursuing building contacts with the relevant organisations. I look forward to reports in the future that have more of a sense of where you think things should be going, and I wish you the very best with your portfolio.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, well done, Councillor. Fantastic you're putting the England games up on the big screen. I might not be attending the first two, but I look forward to getting, hopefully, to go on the Saturday against Panama. I endorse the comments made by the leader of the council. You know, we hope that by the 17th, 19th of July that we're in the World Cup final. But a fantastic start, putting the big screen event. My lads used to go up to the Leeds City Centre to watch all the European and the World Cup matches on a big screen in Leeds. You've finally done something that's beneficial for the people in this city. But thank you very much for that.
Councillor Ayub.
Thank you for your report. I just wanted to ask, is the free Aspire membership still going to be available for young people? That was a Labour commitment, a legacy commitment. And also, when we're looking at sports and leisure, and I see Light Waves as a leisure centre, and I see it contributing massively to health and well-being outputs for the district. I'd hope going forward there'd be better partnerships with the local authority to count some of them outputs as well as resources to help it develop further. Will there be a commitment for that? And also, whilst we're talking about culture and the contributions that the whole community makes, that if there'll be more events, including the wider community from the Muslim community, the Asian community, the African community, to be put on as part of the programmes.
Thank you. I'll answer first to the gentleman behind. So basically, politics apart, the sports and culture always brings people together. So that's what my cabinet will do. So that's for the first gentleman. And regarding to your questions, firstly, there will be sports and culture brings diversity. So we won't be discriminating anyone, any race. I'm Polish myself. Any race will be welcome. We will work with everyone, create events and culture for everyone. So that's out of the questions. There will be no separation, and if this answers yours. Could you remind me another question?
I think that was the Aspire funding for...
I've got this. So regarding Aspire, there is actually, it's called Ignite. The project is called Ignite for 16 to 24-year-olds age. And it's an active project. What we're trying to do, engage even more people, because I've reviewed the project. It's not enough hours for the kids and teenagers to actually come and train and use facilities. So we try and open more hours. And I'm big on sports because basically our kids, teenagers are obese, on phones, do nothing. So I want people to start moving and be healthier. The more people move, the less money we spend on health. So if that's answer to your questions.
Councillor Johnson.
What I would just say is we've got to look at light waves first. We've still got to have a look at it, get under the bonnet and check what's going on first before we start talking about partnerships. So let's get it as fast as we possibly can. We'll look at it, we'll come back.
Can I come back?
So we're in the section of the meeting where it's questions to the portfolio holder. I appreciate you were answering the question because you had the information, but Councillor Ayub, if you're wanting to come back to Councillor Johnson, that needs to be done outside of this because your questions need to be to Councillor Bosch.
I could phrase it that way. It's just that when I talk about leisure, I mean leisure from a community and voluntary sector point of view. I'm sorry I use Lightways as an example, but there's lots of other leisure facilities and organisation and youth sports academies around the district.
So a point of order is where you believe that there's been a breach of the council procedure rules or a breach of the law. In this case, as I've already explained, we're in the section where questions are asked to the portfolio holder. who will answer them. In relation to the question of Councillor Ayoub's interest, he has declared an other interest at the start of the meeting. He is able to take part in the meeting. He is able to ask the question. And I think, in fact, if I heard him correctly, he's already said that was just an example. So I think the question was to Councillor Bosch, will you work with local community facilities in sport as well as with the Council's leisure centre? I think if that question is asked and answered, Mr Mayor, then I think we are able to move forward.
The simple question and answer is yes. We already visiting few facilities with officers. We are actually trying to expand some facilities, investing money in leisures, new equipment. So yes, the answer is yes.
Councillor Hayes.
Pride events are culturally significant across the district. Can you confirm whether the council will continue to fund and support local pride events and whether the cultural programme at Wakefield Exchange will include LGBT+ programming this summer?
I defer this to my colleague, Councillor John Thomas, as the policy for this is not in my portfolio.
Councillor Thomas.
No, we need to...
We have to sit with Councillor Bosch.
Yeah. So these are questions to Councillor Bosch. So Councillor Bosch, you can't ask Councillor Thomas to answer that for you. What I would suggest in relation to that is that a written answer to your question is circulated to all councillors. That's within the council procedure rules and it'll happen within the next week.
So regarding this, I will have to do further investigation and I'll come back to you with written response. Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Bosch. The next report is the portfolio holder for district regeneration and regional growth. Councillor Pinder, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I'd like to start off by echoing Councillor Johnson's comments and wishing the England national team all the best tonight in their home opener against Croatia. 60 years of it we've suffered as a nation. Hopefully it's the start of something special tonight. And I'd also like to congratulate all councillors on their election, especially our Reform UK councillors who have been delivered with a mandate for change, and we will deliver on that. As part of our new Reform UK administration, I'm delighted to have been appointed to the position of Cabinet Member for District Regeneration and Regional Growth. Regeneration plays a crucial role in securing the future of our district and improving the quality of life for residents. It's about making decisions that deliver for our communities now and in the future. I am looking forward to playing my part in delivering change that the residents have voted for, supporting a new direction in local and accountable leadership. In my role as councillor, I am committed to standing up for local people and making sure their voices are heard. I believe the council should be more accountable, more transparent and more focused on delivering for the communities that it serves. I bring over a decade of experience in procurement, having worked closely with both public and private sector partners, and through that I've developed a strong understanding of economics, building strategic relationships, analysing market trends and leading negotiations. I've had the opportunity to work alongside business leaders, legal experts and finance professionals to deliver growth whilst managing contracts and overseeing significant budgets. I am also heavily involved in the sporting community, where I built a strong reputation and see firsthand how regeneration can open up new opportunities for residents, young or old, across the district. This portfolio is responsible for strategic regeneration of our district. Our city and town centres need to adapt to meet changing consumer demands and business trends. We need growth in residential, retail, culture, entertainment and leisure to stimulate the local economy and secure the district's future whilst improving residents' lives. Our future plan to bring strategic regeneration to the wider district include looking at options beyond the city centre. We hear a lot about Wakefield, we hear a lot about Castleford. As a man that's grown up on the outskirts of a district, I want to ensure that every corner, every area of our district receives equal attention and investment. I'm currently working closely with my colleague Councillor Wakefield. Together we want a clear understanding of how the area currently occupied by the ridings could be regenerated or transformed. Together we want to analyse the vision that's been put forward and understand all the options and opportunities properly before then taking the next steps. You have my commitment, the people of Wakefield have our commitment that you will be listened to. Whether you're a business, whether you're a resident, we will listen to your voice and make you part of the decision-making process. In the meantime, the ridings will remain open for business as usual, whilst the management company continue to support the day-to-day operations for the remaining businesses. I'm also prioritising Castleford and the opportunities to accelerate the delivery of the current and longer-term plans for the town, providing much-needed investment and regeneration for the area. And as mentioned earlier, regeneration is about the whole district, which includes programmes such as a Pride in Place, where £20 million of money over a 10-year period is being invested in areas like Featherstone, Lupsey and Castleford. On top of that, there's also planned investment in other areas, for example, at the Collingly Working Man's Club, which has been demolished. I've spoken closely with Councillor Speak on this, and we're looking at options that are available to us to ensure that facilities are generated and there's opportunities for more and more young people in sport and for community groups. I will update the Council at subsequent meetings on the progress that we are making, but rest assured, this administration will deliver meaningful change and regeneration for the district. We will act in the interest of our people and the people that have placed their faith in us to deliver us to this chamber. There are many areas within our district where residents feel that they have been left behind and their voices ignored for far too long. Reform UK will not let them down.
Are there any questions or brief comments on the report? Councillor Speak.
Hi. Thank you for coming straight back to me when I have reached out. Obviously, this has been going on a hell of a long time. And I know I go on and on and on, you'll find. And I will still do that because until delivery comes, it's just, we've waited so many years to get anything, something. Until there's a spade and a brick going in, you will hear me, and I think that'll come from all three councillors that are in Nottingley, as it's known, Forgottenly. Thank you for saying that you will listen to the residents in Wakefield over the ridings. That was one of the main things that how I ended up getting involved in that whole situation. And it's one of the most important things I think that a council can bring is actually listening to the residents that live here in your district. So I'll just do a little bit more of a push. I don't know if you can give me some sort of commitment on timescales, where we're going to get it, this pavilion built that we've been going for quite a while. And also that the agreed specification is going to be the same. I know money is an issue and we're saving money, but we have waited a long, long time for this delivery, and I do not, the residents, everybody not only will be so disappointed if it's descaled. So I have to stress how important that is, regardless of funds. I think they deserve what was presented, what was going to be before any demolition happened. And I know we're speaking about it, and I'm speaking to anybody about it within council and my ward colleagues, but I just want to stress that I just want the delivery. We want the delivery in Nottingley.
Yes, and that's totally understandable, Councillor Speak. When you've waited, and the community have waited such a long time for a project, they want to see action, they want to see delivery, and it's been ignored for far too long. What I will say is that we are working on that now. We're looking at final costings. I've spoken to you about potential funding models, and we'll be looking to deliver that project as soon as possible. It is a priority for me, and I've been focusing on it as much as I possibly can.
Councillor Dodd.
And thank you again, thank you, Councillor Pinder, for your report. A couple of questions. Firstly, Councillor Pinder, can you explain why the word environment was dropped from the name of the committee? Is this indicative of the Reform Administration's concern for our spaces, our living spaces, our green environment? Can Councillor Pinder also confirm and clarify in the interests of transparency and integrity that the Pride in Place funding is not actually his funding to give, it's not actually the Council's funding to give, this is actually government funding for which the Council is the distributor? And finally, I look forward to the administration's future actions on the ridings area. Is this, would Councillor Pinder say, another example of the Council finding that it's very much easier to be critical when you're standing for election and much more complex when you get your head under the bonnet and find what is actually going on, what the reasons are and what the options are, and in particular the complexity of marrying the needs, interests, objectives of a whole variety of different community and business groups?
There we go. Yeah, to answer your questions one by one, so the environment name being dropped, that's probably a question for Councillor Johnson as he's formed the administration. In terms of Pride in Place, yes, we are working together with communities as council leaders, because the council is helping deliver that project and providing primary resource in terms of staffing. So yes, we are having a huge involvement in that and working with communities to see where that money could be best spent to ensure that there's long-term capital projects that actually has a lasting impact in them communities. In terms of the ridings, the main criticism from the Reform Party and Reform members before the election was that there was a lack of transparency and openness to the procedure. So that is something that we're wanting to interject into the process. And as you'll see, as time moves on, there will be a public consultation. We will speak to businesses, homeowners, to ensure that their views are adequately covered.
Councillor Ayo.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for your report. I will watch this space about the ridings and what's the outcomes of that. But what worries me is that there's been a number of cancellations of city centre regeneration meetings, and I want to know, is there a timescale you've got that them meetings will be reconvened, or if they'll take a different shape or form?
Yes, so I can't commit to any timescales at the moment, Councillor Ayoub. We are currently evaluating the process, but rest assured, as soon as we can, we'll be in direct communication with members and members of the community to express what the next steps will be.
Are there any further questions? Thank you, Councillor Pinder. The next report is from the portfolio holder for Highways, Transport and Planning. Councillor Anderson, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by saying 8th of May was a very humbling day to stand on a stage and be acknowledged that people had elected me to take on a role as my ward representative. It was a great privilege then to be asked to actually step into the Cabinet and serve for the community as a whole. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my other two ward councillors, Mike Livesey and Phil Booth, because when you take on a Cabinet role, your days are stretched even longer, and sometimes somebody else has to pick up a bit of the slack, and I would like to thank you publicly before I start. Transport, highways and planning is close to my heart. I've been in industry for over 44 years. Highways is really quite interesting to my heart because I started in September 45 years ago digging holes in Derbyshire as a young man on an apprenticeship. something that we don't seem to do these days, but I learned from the ground upwards my role. That apprenticeship has took me all over the world and given me great opportunities, but I've learned about highways, involvement in planning, so the portfolio sits a lot within my knowledge that has been built up over a long period of time. So I feel it a real privilege. The last few weeks has been a real challenge because the council is really, really busy, and most people don't see how busy it is. It's quite interesting that a lot of the work that is undertaken by the council, you don't see a council vehicle out there doing it. But behind all those people who are repairing the roads and doing work, there's a whole team in offices here that have to plan, organise and control it. And it's been a great privilege to get to know them, because we've got some great people in this council who try to deliver a service for our community. They try to control what goes off around and about to try and stop the disruption in our lives. So the last few weeks has really been getting to know them, how they operate, how they would like to operate if we could give them more free range to improve what they do. And that's been a challenge to me, is to say, how do we actually engage and facilitate the great people we've got to deliver a better service? The knowledge and information that actually will deliver a better service for our communities is actually in the people that are employed within the services here. Our officers are very good. The challenge to me is to look at how do we actually improve that? How do we actually create better opportunities to improve our potholes, our roads, our lining? We've already taken action to improve the amount of street lining that goes on to try and make our junctions a lot clearer and a lot safer. But it's actually about what does the future look like. So we're engaging with other authorities around what techniques they're using to improve services. How do we actually maximise our opportunity? So that is the challenge that's laid at my feet, really, is to create an opportunity for our existing great workforce to actually deliver much more going ahead. And it's a challenge that I will rise to and hopefully deliver, I believe, a better service for our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any comments, questions? Councillor Dodd.
Thank you again, Councillor Anderson, for your report. What's lacking in the report is anything substantial about public transport. So across our district, 1 in 4 households don't own a car. We are, as we all know, a district which is comprised of a city, 5 towns, and an eastern part of the district of many small villages and towns, that all of which are dependent on public transport to make our district work economically, socially, and for the prosperity of the people who live here. For that to work, we need better public transport. I'm interested to hear what your views are, possibly not today, but I'm very concerned that this doesn't drop off your radar. I'm concerned that politicians across the Waika area, not the Labour politicians possibly, but others, do talk about how Wakefield hasn't really punched its weight in terms of getting the full benefit of Tracy Braben's support in public transport for the district. What is the Reform Administration planning to do to redress that imbalance? I'll mention also that we have in our district the largest town that doesn't have a railway station. There's nowhere. We're at the back of the queue for the bus and tram system that Tracy Braben is planning on. Please can you talk more about what your plans are for public transport, and please can you make absolutely sure that while you're working on the highways, you don't forget those 1 in 4 households for whom that isn't their priority.
I would like to thank you for the question. Actually, it's a very relevant one. We recently had a meeting with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority regarding what the transport looks like going forward. There's some things I would probably happily share, probably more details of what the view is to go forward. The challenge is that funding comes from central government and through WICA at the moment. Has enough robust development been done by that organisation to look at us as a community is an interesting challenge we've laid back in front of the panel that is looking at our bus service going forward. Everybody who is looking at that bus service is comparing us with a Liverpool or a Manchester. We're not that. We're a 70% rural community, and there's an impact of doing that. So we have robustly challenged what the model will look like going forward to make sure it meets the needs of our community. And it's a real interesting piece because, and it's not off my radar, the Cabinet members will let you know, it's actually quite high up on my radar. I think it's a real interesting opportunity with modern development and what's going off in the world with regard to transportation and systems, that actually we look to future-proof what we want to do for our rural communities, how we actually engage and put a better transport system, much more flexible and meets the needs of different people. If you're older and you're living in a community, I'm very aware that I'm approaching the ages of when I lost my parents and thinking about how they got around when they were older. How do we do that? How do we make sure they can get to a hospital? How do they get to the doctors? So it is high on my agenda. I'd be quite happy to discuss and get feedback from you on what my views are of where that will go and the challenges that it faces. But we are trying to reformulate what that will look like for us as a community as a whole. And get some proper details on what's needed.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Wow. Another portfolio holder that seems to know what he's talking about. I'm shocked, really, that the fact we've not been used to this for the last 12 years that I've been involved. So, congratulations. Another portfolio that's fantastic. So, we talked about the highways and the roads you're going to do. I've got two schemes in, two roads in Ossett that need doing. So, can we come first? And can you sort them out immediately? And that'd be fantastic if you can do that. I'll put a members' inquiries in, so if we can meet up or get an officer to meet up, get those two sorted out, I'll take it on board what you are. Thank you, Mr.
So on prioritising, I'm going to be really open and frank. I've told my officers that I work with there is no political agenda on what is the priority. It's what's safe and required for the community. I've given my officers clear view to say if I'm going down a political view, to tell me to go out the room and have a little think about my behaviours. We're here and we've been elected to serve the community and what's needed. Highways, most of what we do in highways is about ensuring it's safe to operate, safe for people to travel, and that will always be my priority. I'm hoping in the next week to actually have the full portfolio of work that's planned for this year and start of what's going to be planned for next year. I would like to properly actually engage with everybody and say, these are the planned detailed works that are going to take place in your wards, the actual activity that's going to be undertaken, when we anticipate that activity is going to be undertaken, so that you're aware of it and you can keep your wards fully informed of what's going to take place. I think what we've talked about is a better engagement with what we're doing as a highways department. It's a great department doing a great lot of work, but it's quite hidden. It only gets noticed when people aren't happy with something that's gone off, and what we've got to do is actually show everybody what we are doing. And I have been told I do use we a lot now. I do feel like it's part of who I am.
Councillor Ayub.
I was going to ask that question, but you've sort of answered half of it. It's just that we've got quite a few pipeline projects around resurfacing, reviews and further investigations in our ward, as in East Ward, which were at certain places. They have been put in through members' inquiry. They are on the list. I just wanted reassurance, because I'm a Labour councillor, that the same attention will be given to our ward as other wards as well.
Yeah, I'll give my assurance it won't be done on politics. It will be done on what the ward needs. It's all about safety. To give a little example, within 4 days of being appointed, Yorkshire Water were doing some work in Pontefract area. On a bank holiday Sunday, I sat on that job for 4 hours waiting for their people to turn out because it was unsafe. I take my responsibility safety first. and the safety of our highways comes critical at the top of that list. So I will work with the officers. They will guide me as to what is the actual safe roads that we need to do, the work that needs to be done, and we will follow an asset plan which is fully programmed out, that is around safety, not around politics.
Councillor Speak.
Hi. Quite refreshing that from a highways point of view. In the time that I've been in Chamber, highways has been a headache for us as councillors. So I welcome the fresh look. We have a lot of highways issues in our town. It's one of the majority caseworks that I get, probably what we all will get. Not just about potholes and everything else, but about safety. We have an ongoing issue with wagons. I have hammered at this again. I'm here again. But obviously it's a new administration, so I'm just bringing everything to new administration. It's back to back, 60 wagons blocking A162 entrances. Can't see around them. It's an A road. You know, I have had the portfolio holder out to site before with someone from highways. That didn't seem to progress either. But as I say, I just loggerheaded with highways a lot. You just didn't seem to get anywhere. So I'm hoping that, you know, a new administration can bring a fresh look on that and we can get some help and try and sort out not just potholes and everything else, but it's a serious issue. People cross, you know, I've got a subway and we have big HGVs reversing into, there's a little fence near it, and I think it lasts 4 months. The fence has been taken out 4 times. Like big HGV, this is where kids go to school in the morning. So I am probably going to come to you personally and try and get a site visit, try and sort out what can be done again. Or have a look at the road structure, see if there's anything going forward that we can help that situation, because it is a massive problem in Ferrybridge and Nottingham.
So I welcome just the doors open to anybody, anytime. We want to make this a safe district. We've already started to get some plans together around safety across a whole region of issues across Wakefield district to actually make it safe and to engage with people. Part of one of the things we will be doing is quite a lot of engagement over the next 3 or 4 months publicly, so people understand what highways do, what a pothole is, why we don't do certain things, why do we have roadworks all in one area at one time. Try to answer some of the questions you probably get every day, a phone call or somebody catch you. The comms team are actually working on a manual for councillors that will explain a lot of detail around planning and highways and some of the basic questions that people will question you that for me it's normal for me to answer, but if you're not in the highways world or in the planning world, having a little bit more information helps you at least guide somebody to the right areas or the right answers. So we're going to do that. Safety is a paramount piece. Please come and see me and I'm quite happy to come out. We've got a new highways manager in charge who, I can't say his name, but he's exceptional. In all my years, in 40 odd years in this sort of industry, we do have really good people in there. So we'll come out and have a look and see what we can do to rectify it.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Anderson. The next is the portfolio holder for neighbourhood services. Councillor Carter, would you please introduce your report to the council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to introduce the report on... Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to report on neighbourhood services. Most importantly, I'm pleased and more than that honoured to have been appointed to the position of the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services. Talking to residents, and as already been said, I know and we know that this portfolio can have a significant influence on people's lives and, more importantly, broader communities. I therefore consider that it is important to see how we, colloquially, can build on what we do well and identify where we can improve. I'm already working with officers and discussing the changes that residents voted for. My professional background is in civil engineering and disaster management, where I have held senior roles across major national and international infrastructure projects, as well as hand-on roles that have included working for NGOs such as Oxfam, within communities in countries such as Algeria, Iraq, Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe. My passion is for complex projects and budgets, making difficult decisions to deliver successful outcomes for communities of all kinds. I look forward to using this passion and experience to deliver improvements for our city, towns and communities. And in this respect, my role in neighbourhood services is to focus on maintaining a district that residents can be proud of. Also to provide high-quality, award-winning parks and green spaces, and also to improve the cleanliness of our towns and cities with better street cleansing and the removal of fly tipping. In simple respect to numbers, we have over 11 million household bins to empty every year. So my aim is to improve recycling, and also, more importantly, with that involvement with the public, is to help residents to play their part too. But also on a local scale to manage the flood risks that we have by managing trees, by managing that environment, but also managing the risks that are faced by severe weather, as is my background. But also with more important services that are personal, bereavement and registration, to provide support at key points in people's lives, birth, deaths and marriages, and improving the delivery of funeral and ceremony services. And I know from engagement with the officers that in 30 years, Wakefield shall run out of any burial space. So I have quite some challenges in that respect. But in the coming months, my intention is to visit depots and understand the challenges that people have on the coalface in delivering these services. How we can work with people to help them, us, make positive improvements. And with somewhere here, and has already been said by the other Cabinet members, to take a common sense view on things such as grass cutting and improvements in the community so people can enjoy and engage with their green spaces. I'll give you the report, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any questions or comments regarding? Okay. Councillor Farmer.
Yeah, thank you for your report. Disaster management. It's a good job you're in charge of the last administration, isn't it? Yeah, Spring Mill. I'm going to bring up Spring Mill like I've done for the last 7 years, 6, 7 years. We just started working Spring Mill in Ossett. We're just working a new thing that's going on in Ossett with the service director. We don't want to be waiting 6 years again, 6, 7 years. Nothing's been done. So can you promote it and give as much help to the service directors and the people that are going to bring Spring Mill up to what will be a fantastic place for youngsters, old, everybody to visit. If you can do that, that'd be great. Thank you.
What I'd like to say in response to that, Councillor Farmer, and in support of Councillor Anderson also, with the officers, they've made a number of appointments this year, and one of them is an IT to help them provide improved digitisation. And as we're talking about a common sense approach to our engagement and interventions, it won't be politics, it will be common sense.
Councillor Ayer.
I've got a few questions. My first one's about burial spaces, and my understanding is that Sugar Lane's got about 4.5 years left. I want to know if there's any progress being made at looking at the alternative sites for Sugar Lane. I think when we're looking at parks and open spaces, Savile Park was allocated some money for improvements, wanting to know if they will be honoured with all the improvements for the parks and open spaces, because quite a few projects were approved funding with the last Labour council. I want to know if they're not subject to any cuts and if they're going to be honoured as well. And I don't want to, I know everybody's going to give Labour a kick in today because it's the first opportunity they've had. But I will say that I was praising the bin collections not long ago, but is there a reason why there's been a bit of a hiccup where we've had failure of bin collections on Stanley Road, as well as Park Lodge Lane, where green bins or normal household bins haven't been collected for 2 weeks? It's been resolved now, but it's taken 2 weeks to resolve, and that would have never happened under a Labour-run council. So is there a reason for that? I had to get it in.
Waste is always an issue. Many of the problems faced by our officers and the operation of the facilities that they need to provide the function has been the equipment and machinery. They've recently appointed a number of new officers to help them with the management of that machinery, and I will be engaging with them. It is a challenge. In many of the parks, they have insufficient equipment, so it's a big challenge for me to look at that and understand what they need. Regarding the bin collections, I think that was equipment-based, but I can get back to you. I will get back to you on that. Something that we are looking at, as well as in the city centre, the way that we change the facilitisation of waste collection. Regarding the parks and the burial spaces, that's something that is on my radar, and I've been discussing that only in the very shallowest terms because I've been away for a couple of weeks. It is important, but I do honestly believe with a common sense approach, and I won't say anything more about that here because I need to discuss and develop my ideas with the officers, that we do really need a rethink on what we do and how we do it across all methods and scenarios. And I would ask you for some patience. There is a saying, and I do like it, we are eating the elephant one bite at a time. If you will give me a little patience with that, Councillor Ayo.
Any more questions? Comments? No?
Just say that the question about parks wasn't answered about allocated funding.
There are a number of parks currently undergoing improvement. One of them finished, I think, yesterday. It's an ongoing process, but again, with a common sense attitude, we need to put the money where it has best effect. And when we look at our budgets, that's how we shall do that. No one park or position will be given a priority. Safety, yes, but also as I look at our facilities that we have in waste recycling, there are opportunities there to improve our parks and spaces from materials that we're not currently recycling.
Maybe it's a question that gets answered later, but it was to do with, in the previously run Labour Council, that certain parks were allocated funding for improvements, and my question was, will that be honoured, or is there a change of direction?
At the moment, I have received requests and I have approved and said, yes, carry on. So whatever's coming through in the pipeline, I will review. If the works are imminent, I've seen no reason to challenge, but obviously we will be putting everything under review.
Any further comments? Thank you, Councillor Carter. The next report is from Portfolio Holder for Safer, Stronger Communities. Councillor Webster, would you please introduce your report to the Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm pleased to introduce my first report as a Cabinet Member for Safer and Stronger Communities. The report can be found on page 29 to 30 of the agenda booklet. I know from talking to residents within the communities that feeling safe is a key priority within the wards that we serve. I'm focused on getting a clear understanding of the work already underway so we can identify what we can strengthen and improve on moving forward. Our focus will be on delivering positive, meaningful change for the communities within Wakefield, but with a large emphasis on listening to the voice of people within Wakefield. My portfolio is about people as much as it is about the services we provide as an authority. I recently met with the communities team and had the pleasure of meeting the head of serving, Helen Brailsford, who can be described as passionate about her role, and it has been a pleasure working alongside her. The work we do within the community groups and providing grants will be a great foundation for the work I can build upon within serving our communities. I am looking forward to working alongside an important initiative that I've come across within our communities called HMP Not For Me, which works with Year 5 school children to ensure they are well informed about the consequences of criminal behaviours, because I do believe that an uninformed child is a vulnerable child. I'm also proud to oversee the Armed Forces team, who have helped the Council become a Gold Convent member. And as noted by Councillor Johnson, we are pleased to announce that the Armed Forces Day will take place on the 4th of July at Pontefract Park, where we'll be able to support our armed forces and veterans. I was pleased to see our teams alongside emergency services recently hosting the Wakefield Water Safety Week, demonstrating valuable life-saving skills and sharing advice. These events coincide with the recent heatwave some weeks ago and the tragic water-related deaths, a very stark reminder of the importance of safety advice and remembering that no open water is safe. I will be working on the ground with our police service in the next coming days to ensure I get a first-hand experience on what a police shift looks like and what work needs to be done within our communities to strengthen and make them safer and get a good grounding on antisocial behaviour. Bear with me. I've recently been part of the Walk Away campaign. This is a national campaign that has been supporting safety around people going out on nights out to ensure that when they are under the influence, we all know that emotions can be heightened, and we want to ensure that the best option for that is to encourage people to walk away to prevent escalation. In terms of the World Cup, I'm looking forward to celebrating this tonight with my fellow colleagues and family members. I've recently sent guidance to the councillors within our party to ensure that they are fully informed on should any antisocial behaviour take place or any noise problems, the best way to be dealt with this by people residing within our wards. Although we hope we'll all be cheering our national team on, and we hope to bring the cup home in the next coming weeks. I'm happy to take questions. I may need to get more information, but I will send a written answer to any questions that I cannot answer today. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor Dodd.
Thank you again for that report. I also had the privilege of meeting with the neighbourhood team and also with the police inspector for the wards that I am in, and I've heard from both of them a view that it's quite patchy across the district how effectively the neighbourhood meetings are working, how effectively they're engaging with both members of the public, how members of the public are not seeing the point of coming, and many of those meetings don't really get to the nub of what the issues are for people. So in terms of consultation, and I recognise what the administration is saying about wanting to engage with members of the public, wanting members of the public to feel heard and to be able to have their voice. I'm interested in your views about how those meetings, all three levels, with or without councillors, and obviously with the partnership with the police, how they can be made more effective as the administration aims to make real their aspiration of actually having a dialogue with the community.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I appreciate that, and yeah, I understand where you're coming from in terms of effective change being made on the issues raised by residents within our communities. What we will be looking at within my portfolio is managing impact reports that will be reviewed regularly to ensure that we've got a good understanding on what has been acted upon and where we're lacking and what we can do to improve the service once issues have been raised by residents within our community. But as I've just mentioned, our priority is to ensure that residents within our communities are listened to and that is acted upon as a priority. Thank you.
Councillor Speak.
Hi. You've covered the police side that I was going to address. But also, obviously, I've reached out personally and I'm looking forward to our visit. We struggle to get support in Nottingham Ferry Bridge, and as one of the only centres that is surviving, trying to deliver everything we can to everybody who needs. I'm reaching out to see. It's really hard when you're not a part of what is already there to get into that part of what is there. So what I want to see, or hopefully see, as it were promised, is looking at different things, different people who are delivering, not just the same old, this is what we've always done, this is where we're at, but to actually look at everybody individually who are delivering services, who you can support, and I'm hoping that something can come from that meeting where we do get a little bit of support from the council, as well as doing it for all that we do, and we deliver on behalf of the council as well. We do pick up a lot of that. We run a food pantry, we do the supermarket vouchers, we do all that side of it, but with no support, and there's only so much you can actually keep doing without not being able to survive. So I'm hoping that we can build on that and try and get some support somewhere.
Absolutely, Councillor Spoke, and I'd just firstly like to start by saying thank you for the amazing work you're doing, and I want to reassure you that it will not go unnoticed, the work you do, and I'm looking forward to our meeting in the next week and discussing how we can support the charity going forward to make sure that you're heard and we can do all what we can to support you and your residents. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Ayoub.
Well, congratulations to your post. Community is quite close to my heart with a lot of the stuff that we do in communities. I think I've had quite a few taxi drivers that have contacted me about the restitution money, the compensation that they were awarded, but it seems to be stuck in the process of being paid out and has been for a little while. Would be good to know where things are with that. I think it's also important when we're talking about Armed Forces Day to recognise the amazing work that Josie Pritchard had done as the previous Labour councillor who championed that and the hard work that went in over a number of years. I also think I want to mention Help at the Hubs. Help at the Hubs has been something that the council have supported for many years to help with things like the citizens' advice attending centres, as well as the food banks and pantries that run from our communities, for our communities. A lot of that's come through Nova in the past. I hope that will be continued to be supported as well. Sorry.
Thank you for your questions. In terms of the taxi driver compensation, I would need to come back to you with you on that in a written email, because that's something I'm unsure about at the moment. In terms of the Armed Forces Day, we appreciate the work that Labour's done in the years gone, but we're looking forward to championing this going forward and adding more activities and more praise and more support for the armed forces and veterans within our communities, leading on from what Labour might have already done for them. In terms of the hubs, again, this is something that I would need to come back to you on in terms of the Nova funding part of it, but absolutely we'll be doing all we can to support our hubs, and we appreciate they're a vital part of our communities to ensure we're building strong communities and that the support's in place. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulations on your post, Rebecca. Just a quick one. A lot of residents in my area, Ossett and Gothorpe, are quite old, and they won't come into the city centre because of the antisocial behaviour and basically they're scared stiff. What are you going to do to reduce the antisocial behaviour in the city centre, which will encourage residents from outside the area to come into the city centre? As far as I'm concerned, there should be a zero tolerance of antisocial behaviour, specifically during the times when the shops are open. And that's what my residents in my area don't want to come into the city centre because simply they're scared stiff. So how are you going to work with the police and all the partner agencies to reduce that antisocial behaviour? Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. No, we don't want any residents fear coming into the city centre, and that's why in the coming months I'll be working close with the Community Safety Partnership Scheme and the police, and I will be going out myself on the ground and completing shifts with the police to get a first-hand experience of what a day on the streets looks like, a good understanding of what the issues are, also looking at what preventative measures can be put in place. But as you can appreciate, this is something that's going to take time to analyse and something that we need to manage the risk on and look at the impact that it's having on our communities with a view to improve the safety within the city centre for the residents of Wakefield. Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Final Cabinet Member report is that of the portfolio holder for strategic housing, skills and business growth. Councillor Wakefield, can you please introduce your report to the Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It gives me great pleasure to speak at this meeting today. It's a great honour also to have been appointed to serve as Cabinet Member for Strategic Housing, Skills and Business Growth. This will include leading on key decisions affecting opportunities for people's lives, now and in the future, as well as supporting our business community and local economy to grow right across the district. I entered local politics to ensure that residents' voices are heard. My focus will be on greater transparency, accountable decision-making and delivering practical outcomes that benefit our communities. I am committed to standing up for residents and businesses, ensuring the Council works in the interests of the people it serves. A bit of background about myself, which I feel assists me in the qualification for taking on this role, is I was born into the building trade, into a family business, and it's all I ever wanted to do. I was very successful at an early age. This success served me well throughout my life, and it's enabled me to continue to grow. Our family business developed to include structural repairs, repointings and facades. We have worked on a significant number of properties around the country, including some prominent and historical buildings. My fondness of and interest in buildings is insurmountable. To preserve our historical buildings is of paramount importance. In 1990, I actually chose to join the West Yorkshire Police. And again, this was because I wanted to make a difference to people. I wanted to serve people and I wanted to do good for people, which reflects why I've now become a councillor. During that time, I was fortunate to gain invaluable experience being involved in serious and organised crime, which included a variety of serious offences. As a councillor, I bring a disciplined, analytical and methodical approach to problem solving, looking carefully at the details while always keeping the bigger picture in mind. The portfolio plans for future housing growth across this district, ensuring there are enough good quality homes in the right locations. This involves working closely with developers, shaping housing policy, supporting affordable housing and making sure new developments reflect the needs of our communities. The portfolio also supports businesses, working with partners and stakeholders to create the right conditions for economic growth and delivering support programmes. Also included are the district's markets. These play an important role in attracting footfall into our city and our town centres and create a unique offer for residents and visitors. Alongside this, the portfolio includes a significant focus on improving skills, employment opportunities and access to adult learning for residents. Since taking office, I have met with senior council officers to discuss my immediate priorities. These discussions are helping agree with our local, where our focus should be. Central to these discussions was the importance of breathing new life into our local economy, reversing the visible decline and considering how we create more compelling reasons for people to spend time and money in our centres. I am working with my colleague, Councillor Pinder, to look at all options for the future of the ridings. I will also be looking for new opportunities beyond the city to bring economic prosperity to the 5 towns and the whole of the district. We have a shared ambition to attract new activity and investment into the company, into the district. Sorry. I'll be continuing to review ongoing projects to make sure they truly deliver for the district and reflect the best interests of our communities. I also want to take a close look at the support available to small businesses, particularly grant schemes. It's important to me that every pound of government funding is fully used here in Wakefield and the district, the 5 towns district, helping the hard-working people who create jobs and keep our local economy moving. Alongside this, I'll be looking at how we can bring new investment into the district, making sure we're making the most of every opportunity to grow our economy and to promote Wakefield as a great place to call home, spend time and to do business. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, housing. I believe there's a major problem. Obviously, there is a problem with housing, but it's going to get even worse. Since the government brought in the renters' rights, I've had families in my area being given a no-fault eviction and basically told to move out. The problem they've got is that a lot of the landlords, especially around in the Ossett, Aubrey, around there, are now bailing out of being landlords because they're not happy with what's going on. So basically, the supply is going down, and obviously, once the supply goes down, the demand's still the same. The prices are going up. So I've got families in my area who can't afford. They're paying £700 now for a rented house, and now they've got to go to £1,000, £1,100, £1,200 to get the similar house in the area because the landlords are all bailing out. Another ridiculous policy that this government brought in and didn't think about the consequences. Also, the last administration had a zero communication with Vico Homes. So what are you going to do to get that relationship back with Vico Homes that the previous administration completely and utterly destroyed?
Councillor, I thank you for your question. And as a landlord, former landlord, because I bailed out because of what was happening and I could foresee what was going to happen to us. I've already had meetings about this and I've proposed assurances that we can take care of landlords as seen fit, depending on what sort of stage they are. Now, what we've got, and what the current legislation, what was brought in, affected every landlord, which was unfair. It should have affected the people who needed bringing into line, because there are plenty of really good landlords with great tenants who have a great business and a good active working relationship. Unfortunately, for those that have affected our businesses, sweeping changes have been brought in, and in my opinion, and I think it reflects yours as well, it was totally wrong. And it has affected, because what we've ended up now is we've got fewer houses, and people who are in a good position to have the fewer houses, they're charging more rents, which we knew this was going to happen, but they went ahead with it anyway. With regards to all the other developers, and including Vico, you mentioned Vico, I actually had a meeting with Vico yesterday, quite an extensive and informative meeting. We do intend to have more meetings, and I want to, and I don't like saying want to because this is what my intention is, I want to have public consultations about everything that's happened with Vico and what's going into us, particularly in the town centre, with the people of Wakefield, and I want the Vico representatives to be present. I've asked that, well, I've actually insisted that they will be present to explain what's happened over these last few years. We've had nothing to do with what's happened before. What's gone on before is now we're picking up the slack and we're going to try and have to sort it out. That's the dilemma that we've got. We've inherited a problem, a massive problem. We are transparent and we want to have public consultation, and that is what I've stressed. For everything what goes on in Wakefield, the public will be informed about it and they will have an opportunity to give an opinion. Does that answer?
Yeah, thanks for your answer. Just a point I forgot to make is that this particular family are in a band B with Vico Homes. Now, they can't go to... she's a pharmacist. He's just started his business up as a... I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, he's just started his business up 6 months ago. And basically, they've got 3 kids. They can't go from band B to a priority band A until they're homeless, which is absolutely incredible. So, can you work with Vico Homes to do something about, not specifically just for that family, but for families all over the district that are having the same problems now that are being caused by the government's renters' rights? Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
He's a driving instructor, by the way. I forgot what it was. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if you've got any individual claims that really need looking at, please come and see me. I'll take them on board and I will speak. And I've got future meetings coming up and I can raise them with them.
Councillor Dodd.
And thank you again, Councillor Wakefield, for your report. The previous administration received a deputation asking the council to consider implementing a compulsory register of landlords. Now, there is a voluntary register of landlords operational across the district, but as you can imagine, rogue landlords don't see any reason why they should volunteer to be overseen and administered. And sadly, the previous administration didn't see that this was something that would be sufficiently worthwhile or beneficial to renters in the private rented sector, and believed that the recent Renters Act would solve any problems that there might be with rogue landlords. And you know, appreciate that landlords acting inappropriately might result in no-fault evictions, but actually in many cases it's manifest in poor property maintenance, which is also, of course, impacting on health and impacting on the state of our streets and our neighbourhoods. Is the idea of is the council's commitment to improving neighbourhoods and improving the quality of our private housing estate such that would support the idea of doing what many local authorities have done very successfully, which is to make compulsory registration of private landlords with oversight by the council?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Dodd, because I've actually broached this subject myself in a meeting, I think, this week. I don't know if it was this week or last week, was it? Yeah. It has been mentioned, and I did actually ask that question. I personally don't agree with it, and I don't agree with it from a landlord's point of view, which people will have the different opinions. And I did ask that, is it going to be mandated? And the answer I got was no. They said it was approached by the previous administration, and they decided they didn't want to do it, and it was dissolved. It is a voluntary one at the moment, but it is something we do need to look at, because we do, as you suggested, we've got rogue landlords. We need to sort these people out. That is a priority, because we've got people who want to live in a home, not just a building. They live in a home, it's their home. And we have to keep that at the forefront of our minds. We have to look after these people. And I don't personally think, because I've seen it in other cities and I've been involved with it in other cities, I don't think it particularly works very well, because people like myself who are looking to perhaps purchase some properties in a particular area, if it is mandated, I wouldn't even buy in that area. So the people who would are a different kind of person than I am, because I would treat everybody as though they're living in a home and not in a house.
Thank you, Councillor Wakefield, for your honesty in explaining that your priorities rest with the landlord and not necessarily with the private tenant.
No, I didn't say that. I said the people who live in the houses. That's the priority. And that's why we're going to be clamping down on people who are, as you call them, road landlords. I quite like that term, but it's an outdated term, I think, now. But that's what I was using the other night in the meeting. It's the actual landlords I want to clamp down on, because we have got people in homes what need looking after, and they are a priority. The people of the Wakefield district are the priority, not the landlords. But we want to ensure that landlords treat their residents properly and in a proper state. Is that okay?
Councillor Hammond.
I think I'm going to pick up the point of the landlords one here. I think some education would be quite important for certain members of the council. As it currently stands, it's not, unless you're a portfolio landlord, it's not worth being in the landlord business for those people that have 1 or 2 properties. Capital on interest mortgages are not write-offs anymore. Improvements to a property that fall outside a certain realm are also not tax deductible anymore. Also, the tax for most people ends up falling 40% on their profits, because most people fall in with that income category. Actual licensing adds on in Leeds or something areas around £1,100. No landlord's paying £1,100 out of their own pocket. They're going to pay that, and that's going to be passed on to the tenants. The interest is the highest it has been ever, on particularly the 4 and 5%, about 7.5% on landlord properties. This was raised by these lot last time on the deputation. They were wrong then, they're wrong now. The people they're trying to protect, they're talking a load of rubbish, the Green Party. Absolute rubbish. The people in their area, in South Ward, in all these areas, Eastmore, will end up paying around £200 more a month because of these they pretend, let's all pretend, very rich, affluent person herself, is now determining where other people should live in their 2-bedroom houses. Before this interest rate was £450 a month, the same house today is £850.
Councillor.
Absolute load of rubbish.
Mr Mayor, with your permission, again, this point of it is questions to the portfolio holder about the portfolio. It's not a back and forth across the council in responding to what other people have said. So,
the point of personal clarification, the actually reference point was in landlords. The reference point with landlord, I referred to a deputation that took place in the council chamber, which was a factual deputation here. We all heard it. I referred to that. So your ruling is incorrect.
thank you, Councillor Ahmed. In fact, it's the Mayor's rulings that cannot be questioned in this chamber. But my personal view, and it's up to you, Mr Mayor, is that we were in danger of going down a particular track based on a deputation and a question. So if you've got a specific question to the portfolio holder, any of you, that is absolutely fine. But if you are building layers upon layers from the fact that landlords are in the portfolio and what somebody else said and somebody else said and somebody else said, we will be going outside of the procedure rules, and that's my advice to you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ayub.
Mine was just a point about the impact houses of multiple occupancy have in neighbourhoods, and we need to try and keep that in mind as well, because over the years it's just devastated some communities with one household that might be run inappropriately. I think a good example of the work that's been done with Riverside, which is slightly different, is that we've managed to work with the police to make sure some of them things have been taken out. But households within streets were 5 to 6 households. I just think there needs to be further consideration of how they, it would benefit having a landlord scheme that we could try and have some sort of say or how it's managed in them neighbourhoods.
Thank you, Councillor, for raising that. It's quite important that HMOs are treated a little bit differently to regular housing, and I agree with everything you just said. No.
Any further questions? Thank you, Councillor Wakefield. That concludes Cabinet members' reports. Agenda item 8 is to confirm the terms of reference of the Independent Remuneration Panel. Is the report moved?
Yep, I move the report, Mr Mayor.
Is the report seconded?
Report seconded.
Are there any comments or questions in relation to the report? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? This is carried. Item 9 on the agenda is to approve the amendment to the Constitution of Corporate Director Resources being designated as the statutory 151 officer. Is the report moved?
Yep, the report's moved, Mr Mayor.
Is the report seconded?
Report seconded.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions in relation to the report? All in favour? Against? Any abstentions? This is carried. Agenda item number 10 is to receive the annual reports for 25-26 of the Audit Committee, Overview and Scrutiny and the Ethics and Governance Committee. Is the report moved?
The report's moved, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Is the report seconded?
Report seconded.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions in relation to the report? All in favour? Against? Any abstentions? This is carried. The final agenda item is to deal with any motions proposed by members. There are 2 motions on the agenda to be debated here today. Can I please remind members that no speeches, including the moving and seconding of the motion, may exceed 5 minutes. We will take the first motion, number 1. Councillor Speak, would you please move your motion to council?
Thank you. I brought this motion regarding the withdrawal of the Universal School Uniform Support Scheme because this is about fairness, dignity and ensuring that every child in the Wakefield district can start school with confidence, regardless of their family's financial circumstances. I welcome support for those who qualify under the scheme, but my concern is that many families who are struggling every day will now be left behind. Many people working full-time on minimum wage are really struggling. Whether they are a single person living alone, a single parent or a working family, many are struggling just as much as anyone else with the rising cost of living. The reality is that most families live to their means. They budget around the income they have. But over the past few years, everyone has been hit hard by the cost of living crisis. Mortgage payments have increased, rents have risen, energy bills remain high, food costs have soared. Fuel is expensive and everyday essentials cost far more than they did. Families struggle to find extra money. They need to get to work, keep a roof over their heads, feed their families and pay the bills. Once those essentials are covered, there is often very little left for additional costs such as branded uniforms. I do think that branded uniforms within schools needs to be looked at because of the cost. They are so expensive for everybody across the board. Through my work at Ferrybridge Community Centre, I see this every week. We opened a food pantry because of the need in our communities, and the majority of the people using it are actually working. They are doing everything society asks of them. They work hard, they pay their bills, and they try to support their families, yet they still cannot make ends meet. I recently spoke to one parent who receives food support from the pantry, yet their child's school has no idea that they are struggling. That made me ask a very simple question. If the school doesn't know a family is struggling to put food on the table, how will it know they cannot afford a school uniform? If someone needs help to feed their family, it's highly likely they will struggle to buy the branded uniforms. So how are these families going to be identified? We cannot simply assume that schools know who is struggling, because many families quietly carry that burden without asking for help. This is why I believe much more groundwork needs to be done before changing this scheme. There should have been meaningful engagement with community centres, food banks, food pantries, charities and voluntary organisations that work with these struggling families every single day. We know where the need is because we see it firsthand, and we could have helped shape a scheme that reached the families who are so often invisible. I also believe it's reasonable for councillors and residents to ask how the 1.3 million saving has been calculated, what assumptions have been made, how many children are expected to lose support, what assessments were carried out on the impact this will have on the families. No child should go to school without the correct uniform because their parents earn just above an eligibility threshold or because their hardship has gone unnoticed. This motion simply asks the Council to look again, to review the decision, to be transparent about the figures and to ensure no families are forgotten. Every child deserves to walk through the school gates with confidence, dignity and the same opportunities as every other child. I hope members across the chamber will support this motion because investing in our children is never money wasted. It's an investment in the future of our district.
Thank you. Councillor Speak. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Do you wish to formally speak now or reserve your right to speak until later in the debate?
I speak now.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to second this motion. The proposer has highlighted the reality facing many families across our district, and I agree we must not assume that because someone is working, they are financially secure. Many working families are struggling with rising costs of household bills and finding it increasingly difficult. The concern is this new scheme, for some families, they will miss out on support altogether. The motion asks for some very reasonable questions about how the savings have been calculated, how families in need will be identified and what impact this change will have on children. At the heart of this debate it is the children. No child should be disadvantaged or feel excluded because their family cannot afford school uniform. I hope members will support this motion and ensure no child falls through the cracks. Thank you.
Does any member wish to speak on the motion? May I remind members that speakers must be directed to the motion under discussion or to a personal explanation or point of order. Councillor Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me lay out the situation in which we found ourselves upon inheriting the scheme. This was, as I've touched on in my portfolio speech, in the opinion of many, including myself, a naked bribe by the previous administration and its dying gasps. I might add, furthermore, this was not an original scheme cooked up by the previous administration. Instead, I understand the context behind it, that they phoned around other party political positions that were in the same position and effectively asked, how are you going to save yourselves? And they got in contact with Barnsley Council, who were doing a scheme last year, and they decided to copy it. It is not the remit of a local authority to provide school uniforms. If it was, I ask, why have the previous administration, why did they wait half a century to suddenly put this scheme forward? Well, let me tell you why. Because it was desperation. It was toying with the residents of this district. I agree, I wholeheartedly agree, councillors, that the price of branded uniforms is in many ways shocking, and it is something that I will be speaking to schools about directly. I have in fact drafted a letter. I will be going to visit these schools personally, but what I will also be doing is, as our function as local authority, working in coordination with food banks, with uniform banks, with schools, to ensure that the uptake on those schemes is positive. We have resources in the district, we have uniform banks. It is about what we can do as a local authority to signpost and coordinate, and we will support that. We were presented with an option here. Were we to spaff up effectively £2 million of our residents' funds on something that was scattergun approach? No. We have made a pragmatic choice that these uniforms will go, the uniform vouchers will go to the families that are most in need. Those are free school meals. And yes, we do support working parents. The parents that are in genuine economic need, and I understand there will be some that do fall just outside that threshold, will have to apply to the schools. As I touched on, it is on a case-by-case basis. It is not for the bureaucrats in Wakefield to make those decisions. The people who are in best place to make that decision are the schools on the ground. I will say as a parent quite openly, I have been in financial difficulties in the past and I understand them. Struggling to pay my rent, struggling to pay my mortgage. I do understand what it means to be in financial difficulty. If you are in genuine financial difficulty, there should be no hesitation to reach out. If your child needs a school uniform, there should be no hesitation to reach out to your schools or even to reach out to the hardship funds we already have in place in this council. Our job as a council and as an administration, and we were elected on this mandate, is to spend the ratepayers' pound sensibly. We will still support the children in need. This was a one-off scheme cooked up in the dying gasps of the last administration. What we cannot support, however, is an approach wherein people who do not receive this help receive this help. What we want to do is a targeted approach, and going forward into next year, because I might add this was only funded through the one-off sale of a joint property venture, there was no further provision for this next year, and as I've touched upon, there was no previous action taken upon this. We will work with charity groups, with community groups going forward. We will liaise with opposition and councillors from this side as well, as is our duty, and how we can tackle what is a national issue, which is the price of uniforms. And as you touched on, there are many other national issues that are out of our control. These are the remit of Westminster, not Wakefield. We will work as best we can, and we will take feedback, and we have taken feedback from the thousands of doors we have knocked during this campaign. I have spoken to community groups, I have spoken to charities. We would have loved in an ideal world to do many things, including further consultation. However, in the very limited time span that we have been left with this Labour landmine, we have done the best we can. This scheme will be administered and will be dished out for the new school term. There are hardship funds, as I say, and we will, as a local authority and as a new administration, going forward, assist where we can. But I once again reiterate, it is not the remit of a local authority to provide uniforms. It will support where it can.
Councillor Speak, you have the right to reply.
Councillor Johnson indicated he wanted to speak.
Sorry. Councillor Johnson.
I think it's about time that we actually got some truth out here. I see online constantly, what is it, the child snatcher and things like this, but I think we need to have some reality. Since we've taken office, I've been looking everywhere. Do you know what I've been looking for? I've been looking for this magic money tree. That for years, decades, money spent, wasted. And we're not trying to take away from children. We're trying to balance books. We're trying to live with our means. Let me give you an example. And I do thank Mr Ahmed here. We've both been teachers before, and we know that £30 isn't a lot for uniform. It has been noted, and we're quite happy to talk to you. And we know the cost, and we did look at ways we could try and get branded uniform down. But in the time that we come in to get that to turn around for July, August, ready 1st of September, we just could not do it. But it's something we definitely need to look at. It's an extremely expensive pastime, and I totally get that. And I do totally understand that parents up and down the district have a lot of money to pay for. But I'll repeat again, this was never ever the case, never was going to be the case again, and it was an election bribe, a £2 million election bribe. And let's get this thing into perspective. And hopefully the press here, and the people who want to be the keyboard warriors and say that we're child snatchers, let's get this right from now on. We are for Wakefield. We are to make people's lives better and residents' lives better. The council tax, okay? The money spent. So in 2022, we had £177.8 million. In 2026, we've now got 61.6 million, with a general reserve of 16.3 million. So you've managed to spend 116 million. In 2024 to 25, an external auditor's key recommended we do not use the reserves as much, and we've got to stop utilising reserves to balance our books. So let's get this correct. We're having to stop this because it was just a blatant election bribe. So we've saved 1.3 million. That is all I have to say. It has got to stop. We cannot go bankrupt. There is no magic money tree.
Councillor.
I literally spent less than 10 minutes on the internet. I found 5 agencies that provide school uniforms. So I can't see why everybody thinks the council should provide them. There is more people out there that can. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer. Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The issue I've got with this motion is that I'm not too sure which way to go, for the simple reason that in the past the controlling party put a motion in, and then, sorry, the opposition parties put a motion in, and then the controlling parties completely amended it and changed it completely. So the issue I've got with this is I don't think that anybody should have had that. I really don't think that should have been. If we talk about a political bribe or whatever, there is certain responsibilities on families to look after the kids. There's a lot of families in this area that can't afford, aren't going to get the money, but they're really, really angry, or families in my area are really, really angry that certain people are getting benefits, more and more benefits, and the people that are working hard aren't getting anything. And that's what's winding a lot of people up in this district. And also, I've been speaking, I'll give you the scenario of the whole system's just a complete shambles. I was speaking to a family about universal credit. The same family, he was a driving instructor, she was a pharmacist. We got to the point when he told me, I want to bring my kids up right to show that work benefits. That's the first thing he said to me. I thought, that's fantastic. But what he said to me was quite damning. I couldn't quite believe what he was saying, because he said, as a driving instructor, I want to work more and more hours. My wife wants to work more and more hours in the pharmacist, but we can't do it. We can't do it because our universal credit comes down and down and down. So the benefit of working is not there anymore. So the family said to me, well, I'm desperate to work more, but I've got childcare issues if my wife goes back to work because she's got 3 young. The whole system is completely and utterly broken. It's completely broken. So I'm in a dilemma in whether or not to support this motion, because I believe if you're not giving it to everybody, you know, I understand exactly what you're coming. I understand. I'm not trying to be sitting on the fence. I understand exactly what the motion is, and I understand exactly where Councillor Caton's come from. But there's got to be a point when we finish this, because it's benefit after benefit after, and it's now become a career choice as being on benefits. And what really, really bugged me is a few weeks ago there was a report in the Wakefield Express, and it was from a reporter, and she basically said, if you're on universal credit, don't forget to inform the DWP when you go abroad. What? So I've got to that stage now where I think it's completely unfair. This motion, I have to support this motion for the simple reason that I wish it had been that nobody gets it. So I disagree with the fact is that it's it's basically some people are getting it, some people aren't. And I'm supporting the people who go out, the working, you know, the alarm clock Britain. That's the people I'm supporting here. So I will be supporting the motion, and that's the reason I'm supporting it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any more comments? Councillor Ahmed. Councillor.
I'm not going to defend the Labour position on that. Their own members should do this, but there is a few things that I think need to be pointed out. That the council reserves that you mentioned included grants that were given by government at that time, which were ring-fenced for COVID. So the reserve actually isn't what you thought it was. So that was included those which I've got the figures written down. I've not brought them to today's council meeting, but right. So that's point one, and that's point one. Secondly, as somebody who looked through the entire budget last time, I looked through the entire budget. When I saw that budget, it was actually written as by the Chief Finance Officer as a robust budget which had no detrimental impact on the reserve, and it was deemed independently safe and sound. I feel like I'm saying this reluctantly because I am not here to defend Labour's position. They are in the place they are because of their own mistakes and messes. That's number two. Number three, there was 2 reform councillors in the council at that time who had an opportunity to address that and say it was the wrong decision. It wasn't done. So I'm just bearing these points in mind. You know what I mean? Obviously, after the election, if you genuinely don't believe, and I don't know if I agree with you on this one. I previously thought that it isn't the state's job, but we were in Bradford once in a school in mid-year, changed the uniform. So in the mid-year, we were told by the trust to change the uniform. The trousers were branded. So in the end, I realised that in that particular part of, it was Tong and Lacerdyke, people couldn't afford, it was wrong to ask them to spend around £120 or something like that. So we took the fall as a school and said, you know what, we'll pay for it. We won't pay for the New Year Sixers. You've got no power whatsoever of enforcing any academy in Wakefield to change their mind on branding whatsoever. Get that delusion out of your head now. You've got no power whatsoever. The only school, secondary school, that you've got some form of control is Kettlethorpe High School, which brands, I think, even its socks. You know what I mean? So let's get to the reality check. That's the only one you've got some form of influence over because it's actually an LA school, and that still brands its uniforms and charges God knows how much for £1 ties that are made in China. Do you know what I mean? That's the reality, and I have to understand that. And I don't want to, because I want to say this respectfully. Do you know what I mean? In a way, if uniforms are not the responsibility of the state, then why not take the entire funding away? Say, actually, you know what? It's not the responsibility of the state. This is why I'm trying to balance it out. I do understand what you've said about balancing books. If now we've saved £1.3 million, I believe that's 1% on the council tax. So will all residents in Wakefield be getting a reduction of their council tax by 1%? If that's the saving that's being made, and that was the number there, the officers can correct me on that. I didn't bring the spreadsheet. I'm not planned this and I'm not written it. I'm just telling you what I think on top of that. I don't think £30 is enough. I don't think, is it the job of the state to provide for people who can't afford their electricity bills? But we do it. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. Is that the state's role? Is it the state's role to provide for free prescriptions for certain people? So where do we stop and say, what is the state's role? I believe that the state is too big and it's mollycoddling people and it's setting up unrealistic expectations of worklessness in this country, and that has been going on for years under various governments. So I do agree with
Councillor,
you.
You have to state whether you are for or against the motion.
I don't think you do actually, no. So I don't, yeah. Unless you made, you made a new rule up. Yeah.
Council procedure rules are really clear that the debate on this is on the motion itself. To debate the motion, it needs to be clear from a member's speech whether they are for or against the motion. At the moment, I don't think we've quite got to that point of your speech, and you've got 30 seconds left.
It's a difficult position to put me in. I didn't oppose it, and when I did an alternative budget, I didn't propose it. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite here. So I have to, unfortunately, unfortunately, actually, I'm going to have to support the Liberals on this one. Yeah.
Councillor Ayer.
I'll be supporting the motion because I think it's the right thing to do. I think it was a fully costed budget. It didn't come out of it isn't coming out of taxpayers' money. It was money that the council had made on another project. We see people that come to the food bank on a daily basis, and it is the working poor that, you know, this will help, and it will help families. It's not a massive way to go, but I think it will make a big difference. I think you can talk about reserves and whatever else. You've also got to remember the reserves also brought in other monies as well. So if the reserves was used for one purpose, it then income generated other money that was downloaded with that money. So I don't see what the problem is by supporting this motion. I don't see why Reform feel as though that they've got to cut it by a certain amount. It's not making no difference to the budget, and you've not actually indicated where you'll be spending the money, what you're going to be saving. So I would want to support this motion because it's absolutely the right thing to do, and I think the Reform lot are just they're kicking Labour because they're not here to defend themselves, and it's like, no, it's that scenario, Nadeem, it's that scenario of, yeah, you know, Reform are used to, for one person's action, are used to blaming the whole community. So I'm trying to say to you is that we should support this motion. It's the right thing to do, and Reform are just playing gesture politics to say we're trying to make a difference and do something differently. You're not. You're actually letting down working class families, you're letting down children. Just give the 30 quid or 50 quid that we voted for.
Councillor Dodd.
I'll be supporting the motion as well. I won't comment on whether this was an election bribe, but I did note that many Labour candidates referred to the school uniform vouchers as part of their electioneering and said that if you don't vote Labour, you risk losing it. And clearly we do know how people voted. I'll support this motion, leaving aside, because items 2, 3, 4 and 5, I think are perfectly reasonable requests on behalf of the Liberal Democrats. In terms of item 1, we are where we are. I think it's regrettable that the decision was taken to withdraw the funding from it without making clear how that 1.3 million would be used more beneficially. We will be watching, and I'm sure that this comes as no surprise, very closely to see how the administration does apportion that spend and how it does use the budget going forward, so that there isn't any sense that the 1.3 million that was saved by depriving families not just of the support for school uniforms, but also for the security of being able to count on what had been promised going forward, that this is families who are clearly about to go into the expensive summer holiday period, having budgeted for what those costs might be and for, you know, what the costs of next year's uniform are going to likely be and how they might be subsidised, who are thrown with this complete curveball of that money that you might have thought was coming isn't coming anymore. I think that's regrettable from both sides. But we are where we are. However, I think that for the request for the administration to provide full council with a detailed breakdown of how the savings will be used is perfectly reasonable. To provide full council with an assessment of the likely impact, well, clearly I've talked about that earlier in the meeting, and I will be coming back with a request for that to be circulated to all members, that impact assessment is a legal obligation, and I think it needs to be shared. To investigate the options for widening eligibility criteria to support Reach's family experiencing financial hardship, including those not eligible for free school meals. And that's not necessarily just in relation to school uniforms, but other council support. And to do a full report back to council within 3 months of the implications, I would say, on those families who thought they were going to get £50 and are now only getting 30, or thought they might be getting 30 and are now getting nothing. Because I think that unless that is shared, the commitment to transparency and to listening to members of the public, listening to our residents and understanding their position is a hollow one. Thank you.
Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I should call it as a point of order, but my two honourable friends who made very passionate speeches, that sound more like going against the motion, but then want to support the motion. I just wanted to highlight that there's an option of being absent as well from the motion, which we are both quite experienced, but this is very confusing that your point of view looks like you're giving different and then supporting the motion. So just a comment. Thank you.
Councillor John Thomas.
I just wondered if any members on the opposition benches think that any parents earning £80,000, £90,000 a year should be provided with free school uniforms by the local authority.
Councillor Johnson.
Just clear this up. So 2024-2025, the firm Grant Thornton told the council that utilising reserves to balance books is not what you do. So let's get this straight. And if money was no object, we'd buy everybody cars. We'd pay all the electric bills. Okay? And the answer to the Labour Labour councillor, okay? This is straight. 1.3 million, we're going to look after it for the time being and do what Labour never did, which was hold on to money and save it. And then we'll decide what we're going to do with it. Okay? Thank you.
Councillor Speak, would you like to reply? I have to remind you, in exercising your right of reply, may I remind you that no new matter can be introduced.
Yeah, I take on everybody's comments. I feel like I don't know if I didn't come across how I was trying to come across or whether it's being ignored, because I've fought for this for so many years, probably 3-4 years now, in putting across a case for people who are working. They are struggling. I see it every day on the ground, I work with it, and that is the point I was making, or trying to at least. We can all do we think that everybody should have got it? Do we think it were a political stunt? It's by the by, as far as I'm concerned. All I'm concerned about is that every child who is not going to have the correct uniform because their parents can't afford it are actually going to be able to give that child so they don't get bullied when they get to that gate on that morning. That is it. I'm not here for the political stunt or the political whatever. I'm here trying to make sure that our children in our district get what they should, or what the parents might not be able to afford right now in this time. I do hope, as a council, after listening to all that, that you are recognising, you know, that the working class are struggling. They are really, really struggling. And some people do not ask for help. They don't. They will go without before they ask for help because they've got pride. There's a lot of people with pride who find it really, really hard to even ask for help. That's all I've got.
Right, can we continue for a vote, please? Can I ask all those...
Oh, hang on, Councillor.
Oh, sorry.
Has Councillor Ayoub already spoken? I think he has. Yeah, you can't come
No,
in again.
You've both spoken on there already.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What's been asked for, Councillor Ayoub? A recorded vote. Is that supported? Who else is supporting a recorded vote? No, there's not enough people. Just an ordinary vote, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, we have to move on. Please show all those in favour of the motion.
We're voting on the motion.
Voted on the motion.
All in favour of the motion. Your motion, Councillor Speak.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Can I? So there was a request for a recorded vote. I did ask very clearly who supported that. There were not 5 people who supported that at the time. That was moved on, and we are now taking the vote of those who are in favour of the motion. At this stage, we can't go back to about a recorded vote. What you can ask for is for your individual votes to be recorded in the minutes, if that's what you want to do. So it will record that you voted presumably in favour, but it won't record who voted against or anybody else's vote unless they also ask me the same thing.
All those in favour of the motion, please indicate. All those against the motion? Are there any abstentions? That is defeated. Now take motion 2. Councillor Johnson, would you please move your motion to council?
Mr Mayor, I rise to propose that Council agrees to undeclare climate and biodiversity emergency in Wakefield. The May 2019 declaration of a climate emergency and the March 2021 declaration of a biodiversity emergency are examples of how this Council worked in the past. Too much time spent on virtual signalling and gesture politics. Not enough time spent on improving residents' lives. This now comes to an end. Going forward, we are going to dedicate all our energy, resources and leadership towards making a genuine difference for our communities. It is important to say from the start that this is not about denying climate or the science. We accept that our climate is changing and that a significant international effort will be required to respond to that. What it is about is how this Council, and indeed any Council in the UK, can effectively respond to these challenges. We are proposing this motion today to sharpen our focus on practical, achievable actions that deliver real outcomes for our communities. This is about moving forward in a more grounded, realistic and impactful way. Every penny spent on net zero takes away everything from our residents. With council tax set this year at another 4.99%, we need to put our residents first. We've got roads, potholes, housing, we could name countless. The people we serve measure the difference we make in how we improve their lives. I was speaking to Reform Deputy Leader Richard Tice a week and a half ago, and he signalled to question every penny spent on net zero and where it should be redirected. It's got to change residents' lives. Is my neighbourhood resilient to flooding? Can I access a decent, affordable public transport system? It's not measured by the council setting unachievable targets to be net zero without a proper strategy to get there. As this motion notes, this is not a withdrawal from action on the environment. It's the recognition that the language of emergency is unhelpful and doesn't do anything to improve the lives of our communities. Our support to improve energy efficiency can help lower people's consumption and reduce bills. More investment in public transport and active travel doesn't just give us cleaner air, it helps connect people with jobs and training opportunities. That improves our local economy and brings people together. Working with regional and national partners, we can put our plans in place to respond to the changing weather patterns. These are practical things that we can and we will focus on going forward. But to do that, we don't need complex rhetoric and political debate about things that aren't within the Council's control. We need a practical action, and in many cases, we can take practical steps that will deliver multiple benefits at the same time. Focusing on our delivery helps us to focus on where we can make a difference. We can't make promises we can't keep. That erodes trust even more. If we use the language of emergencies, it's a blocker to using common sense in everyday decision making. It creates a temptation to build a separate agenda outside of the core business of what the local government is actually responsible for. If we don't focus on practical delivery, we make decisions that are detached from the real lived experiences of our residents. One thing that came up time and time again on my doorstep during the election was value for money. Hence, we have one Labour councillor. Local taxpayers want us to use public reserves wisely. Council tax is a big bill for everyone. A lot of people struggle to pay it, and that's not surprising with how it's been going up in recent years, 4.99%. What they want from us to use every pound of their money as responsibly as we'd use our own. I don't think the council meeting was the test for that under the last administration. The council is already on course to save over £250,000 on the cost of our climate change this year. As the motion sets out, we want to go further and faster to reduce costs and put resources where they can make the most difference. If the council passes this resolution today, we'll bring a more detailed report to our next cabinet meeting. That will set out a proposed approach to around £170,000 of remaining spend. Our approach in relation to the work of elected members in this area, including the role of climate change member champion, and our approach to existing partnership, work and involvement with regional bodies in this policy area. Every decision we make involves choices and trade-offs. We're about to invest, what to prioritise, how to balance competing needs. We're not going to dodge these difficult decisions. In conclusion, leadership is not about setting a direction. Our success is measured not by the language you use, but by the outcomes we achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Is the motion seconded?
Yeah, I'd like to second the motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Do you wish to formally speak now or reserve your right to speak until later in the debate?
I'll speak later in the debate if required.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Dodd.
It will surprise nobody that I'll be opposing the motion as a member of the Green Party. This motion to undeclare the urgency of climate breakdown is a classic example of gesture politics. I will remind councillors that the council and all councils have statutory legal authorities that remain in place. The motion says that it's not realistic to expect local councils to deliver meaningful changes that will deliver net zero, but to give just two examples of the statutory and legal responsibilities that councils do have to deliver on and mitigate the effects of climate breakdown. Under planning and development legislation, councils must prepare local plans that contribute to mitigating and adapting to climate change, must consider the climate impacts in planning applications and set local requirements for energy efficiency, renewables and sustainable transport within national limits. Under the social values rules, climates must consider in procurement and commissioning environmental well-being, sustainability and carbon impact. I note also that the leader of the council and Councillor Harvey and behind me Councillor Farmer all voted in favour of this climate emergency in 2019. I'm interested to know what has changed since then to convince the members opposite that the many eminent scientists and multinational bodies, when they said that we need urgently to reduce and mitigate the effects of climate breakdown, are no longer valid. We need to do this in order to avoid severe flooding, severe droughts, very high winds, dangerous storms, and extremely high temperatures. Things that all will make for crop failure, rising food prices, subsidence from ground shrinkage, consequent rising insurance costs, costs of living, and working and living conditions that are at best very uncomfortable and at worst life-threatening. This is no joke. This is serious, and to suggest that this is not an emergency, suggest that it's not something that urgently needs to be tackled, is frankly irresponsible. I would be interested to know how the proposer of the motion and how the council can reassure the residents in our district that they will clearly reduce the risks and how they will do the practical things that make residents' lives easier to cover these risks. Will the council be publishing a revised strategy and action plan to set out for residents a replacement to the plan that they are now dismissing, so that residents, businesses and council staff can be clear what actions the council will continue to take to deliver on its statutory duties and work with its own departments and businesses to ensure that the country, as the country moves away from imported fossil fuels, which we can be very sensitive to how unreliable they are, how vulnerable we are to imported fossil fuel from the Middle East, how we can be moving towards, as we move towards more locally available, sustainable and secure energy sources, that our local economy does not leave swathes of workers whose jobs depend on working with fossil fuels. So I'm talking about plumbers, I'm talking about motor mechanics, and I'm talking about the very many people whose jobs rely on, their skills are based on the use of fossil fuel, that they are not left high and dry, as we saw happened when the mines closed. This is a serious issue for labour and prosperity in our region. The climate declaration was made partly so that this council could apply successfully for government grants and for carbon reduction projects. Does the council now reject the opportunity to apply for and receive this kind of funding?
Councillor, can you please wind up, please?
I'll wind up there. Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
I'm going to be speaking against the motion, and just make that clear at the beginning, and I'll outline the reasons. I think in 2019 I've been told that apparently we all voted in favour of this, which includes Councillor Johnson and Councillor Farmer. We're just trying to work out whether we did or not, but apparently we did. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and stand and say something's changing there in those moments. So I'm against the motion for that main reason. But I do believe, and I say this, and I don't want to upset Councillor Hyatt because he obviously doesn't understand, it's abstain. I'm not going to abstain as well. It's not absent, it's abstain. So I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's right for me to change something that I've done previously in the council meeting. And I'm going to stick with those. Like I did earlier on, I'm not going to come across as a hypocrite unless something strategically has changed in there. I think it probably was, if I'm being honest, it was gesture politics when it was introduced. And removing it is also gesture politics as well. So both sides are either wrong. I don't understand the purpose of it, but I believe you have to do it because you committed to that, to your electorate. If that was an electoral commitment made, then it's right that you delivered it. Otherwise, people will say that you didn't deliver the electoral commitment. In terms of the actual figures and everything like that, I think you are right. When I looked at the budget last year, it was about £250,000 was spent in last year's budget, and that would have been the saving on green initiatives in the council, from what I remember on there. That was the whole figure. I thought it was more, and obviously, you know, it wasn't as much as I expected it to be. But there is an issue as we currently stand, and that isn't a problem within Wakefield, but is an international problem, which is where I have the problem. When a country that contributes something like 1.9% of the carbon, as we do, and our residents have to pay the price of China India and Brazil as the biggest contributors of carbon in the world, I think there is unfairness, and I have to acknowledge that. But as a council, this was declared, and my main reason for asking the question earlier on about the air quality was, since the coal mines have closed down, whether that was right or wrong, the air quality in Wake has improved. That's a fact. However, there has been an increase in asthma amongst younger people. Now, for whatever reason that is, I don't know what the reason is, but I don't think it's right to go back in time and say, let's open the coal mines again, etc. on there. And it's not even a matter for the council. What matters to the council is whether this motion is deliverable or not. On declaring a climate emergency, I believe there is a climate issue in the world that we've got today, and there's air quality, floods around the world, but it's not going to be resolved by Wakefield Council.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say that it sounds like my name has been mentioned a few times in this full council, and I probably wasn't a mayor candidate for reform, but I was a councillor, and I'm proud to say I was a reform councillor. However, when I voted in 2019, this net zero gimmick, I was a Conservative councillor, and I have to admit, Johnson's government has got it wrong. And now, in the year of 2026, and compared to where we were even in 2019, this is a different era. And councillors speak, so many councillors mentioned about what we're suffering as a community in Southampton, in Nottingham Ferry Bridge, and even in Oxford, everywhere we have problem with parents cannot even afford uniforms because we have spent the money wrongly. And we have, the leader has mentioned about £78 million we are going to have in the next few years, and that is the budget gap. So how we are going to say to the parents, to the district, to the residents to say, look, this net zero, we want to have the lorry, the buses, cost about £400,000 per, and we don't have EV charges for those dustbin, for the waste collected. So we have so much money has been wasted on this net zero initiative. So that is the reason why today I want to say support the leader's motion. I myself, on the 18th of March, the last full council meeting, I proposed we actually will be review all of this, the Labour legacy of this net zero, even the local plan, because Councillor Dodd has mentioned it was intertwined. We know where our legal obligation should be, and this council is going to adopt a common sense approach on the net zero, and that is the reason why we, as this side of the chamber, will be supporting this motion without a doubt. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've changed my mind. I'm going to vote for the motion because I can do. And from 2019 to 2026, it's changed, hasn't it? If you get India, Russia, China, all the big carbon producers, get them sorted out. But why should our residents pay so much money when other countries don't give a monkeys? They just simply don't give a monkeys. And I'll tell you about flooding as well, because my house flooded in 2020 at Aubrey Bridge. And I'll tell you why it flooded, because the Labour councillor who was a leader now, the Labour Council, the Labour Party now. I'll tell you the reason why it flooded, because they didn't sort out the pumps at the back of the, on Parklands, they didn't clean out the drains, they didn't do anything. That's why there was a problem with flooding. If you get that sorted out, then you might have a problem of sorting out the environment. So nobody tell me about flooding, because say I flooded. So I'm going to support the motion. I agree with it 110%. And unless other countries follow suit, then why the hell should our residents have to fork out so much money? There you go, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
I think Councillor Anderson indicated.
Councillor Anderson.
A big part of what I work in is the energy sector. If you go and look on, so some people have done and looked on my LinkedIn, this is a part of an area of world that I fully understand. We're not saying we won't take sensible approaches. We've already had one group in to come and have a look at our electricity supplies. There are some clever things we can do by balancing the voltage that actually reduces our carbon footprint, gives a benefit to the council, reduces the wear and tear on equipment, on chilling equipment, on the electrical equipment, reduces our energy bill. There are sensible choices we will make. They will be common sense choices. We will not jump down the route of just following a theoretical argument that people put out. Climate is changing. Everybody in the energy sector understands we have an opportunity to try and do something. But it's a bit of a fallacy to think that we can turn back the time on what's happening to our globe. We don't fully understand what's happening with climate. The best scientists in the world don't fully understand it. But what we can do as a council is make logical choices for our community to try and help our community reduce their carbon footprint, to save them something on their energy bills, and to reduce our footprint. We will make those as logical choices, not because of some idealism called net zero. It will be out of practical examples of doing real things. This is just, for me, is a great thing of just going, let's stop the rhetoric about certain terminology that's used in the press around certain political agendas. We need to change the way we behave, but we don't need slogans to do it. The one thing I love about Yorkshire is that Yorkshire people say it as it is. We need to do stuff for our community, and that's what we're going to do. We don't need some nice fancy slogan to hang it on. We're going to do it because it's the right thing to do at the right time and at the right cost.
Councillor Ryan.
Well, I class myself as a Yorkshireman, and I'm going to say it as it is as well. I think I will be opposing this motion. Now, I'm going to try and read it out because I get too passionate and go off on one. I think, firstly, I've yet to see any evidence of what financial savings this proposal will actually deliver. If the administration believes this change will save money, then it should provide a clear breakdown of those savings. Residents deserve facts, not assumptions, and that's what we call gesture politics. Secondly, many of the actions taken under the previous Labour Council on climate commitments have reduced costs as well as emissions. Energy efficiencies through street lighting, we can see that on a daily basis, improving council buildings and reducing fuel use all help save taxpayers money in the long term. We as residents planted 45,000 trees, through the community anchors, hubs and libraries. And that showed, because in the first years it was only 5,000, then to deliver 45,000 a year just shows the appetite for the community wanting to get involved. We did solar for schools. We had 2 projects that helped the schools reduce their costs of running. We did community assets. We did Renthorpe Community Centre, who saw a significant reduction in running costs, and we did Portobello Community Centre in our ward. We also had Sarah Coots, who's championed solar for the faith communities and looked at ways that they could do more improvements. It engaged a wider community. We also had the repair cafe that the BIFA ran on a regular basis, trying to bring things that you would normally throw away back into use. I think the Wakefield district plan also contributed. It was a thin thread, it was a thread running through the whole project. We brought partnerships together. We had people like Pinderfields Hospital, putting solar on the roof, saving them hundreds of thousands of pounds, which then would save us money. We had Wakefield Trinity, we had Wakefield College, young people engaged and involved and doing masses of work and showing that that's what the next generation are wanting. Somebody mentioned the mines. There was a whole conversation about mine water and how that could be used to energise some of the housing and some of the businesses around there. Thirdly, climate change is not a political slogan. across our district with more extreme weather, flooding risks and pressure on our environment. Ignoring these challenges will not make them disappear or burying your head in the sand. May was the warmest month ever, and this is a climate emergency, and it is real, and that's an example of it. Finally, declaring a climate emergency and working towards net zero shows that Wakefield is prepared to plan for the future. It's prepared to attract business and investment and leave a better district for the next generation. If there is and I know you're all going on about stuff, but if there is a specific project that are poor value for money, let's debate those on their merits. But abandoning the overall commitment without clear alternative plan is not a reasonable leadership. That's definitely gesture politics. That's what Wakefield Reform are doing with our future and our children's future. For those reasons, I cannot support this motion.
Any further comments?
It's good to have one person on side.
Councillor Thomas has reserved his right to speak.
Councillor Thomas, you reserve your right to speak. Do you wish to speak?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So, net zero has become a religion and it has become a slogan. And reducing our carbon use is the right thing to do, but at the pace and a cost that is right for our residents. So, nationally, the governments, both the current administration and the previous Conservative administration, they've put these ridiculous net zero targets, carbon reduction targets in place, and all it's driven is we've not reduced what we use. All we've done is export our carbon emissions. So we buy gas and oil from Norway. They drill the same North Sea oil fields that we're not allowed to. So it's the same oil, the same gas, but it just costs an exorbitant amount to get it from Norway. We've closed the mines, which absolutely was the right thing to do. But again, all we've done is export our carbon emissions. So Ferrybridge Power Station now runs on wood pellets that we import from America and Canada on a diesel-powered boat that lands on the west coast of the UK, then gets transported on diesel-powered trains. So I will obviously be supporting this motion because it is gesture politics. A climate emergency is not in the best interest of Wakefield District. If we'd listened to the climate alarmists for the last 50 years, Wakefield would be a seaside town and I'd be living in Castleford by the sea.
Councillor Johnson, you have the right to reply if you wish.
I have, and I'm going to reply.
In exercising your right of reply, may I remind you that no new matter can be introduced.
Not a problem. I would like to say Wakefield Council leadership is about looking after people's money. And I'd also say that I'm not denying about climate issues, but I'd actually say the Green Party, this is gesture politics from yourselves, because until we're not into international affairs, okay, so until other people jump on board, about £500,000, 270,000, then another 170,000 is better spent for residents, or dare I even say saved, rather than spending that money. So, look, and the other thing I think still cannot work out, right? We had an election, and that was part of our election, and the electorate voted in huge numbers for Reform UK. There's 56 of us here. There's one Labour councillor, one Green. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Can we now move to a vote? Please show all those in favour of the motion. Please show those against. Are there any abstentions? The motion is carried. And that, colleagues, was the last item on the agenda. Thank you all for your attendance. I now declare the council meeting closed.